I'd like to make a motion. Just like to make a motion to turn on the second session. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I see none. Motion passed. George, can you summarize? Sure. The governing body met in executive session briefly. We received an update from the acting manager regarding the matter of personnel waiver. No action will be required. All right, we have a motion second to approve the March 1st, 2023, March 15th, 23 council session minutes. We had our motion. Is there a second?
One second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Delivery?
Abstain to 3-1, yes, 3-15.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have a motion second to approve payroll requisition less than operating expenses. All right, we got a third one second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Delivery?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, this time we're moving up to public comment. This is public comment on agenda items only. All right, seeing no public comment, we're going to close the public portion. Next up, we have resolution 2023-65, and this is the introduction of the 2023 municipal budget. We have a motion second.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All right, I'll turn it over to the manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
The city manager is required by statute to deliver to the mayor and city council budget documents for the preparation of the annual municipal budget. This presentation of the budget to the governing body commences the formal budget process under the control of the mayor and city council. This open meeting allows for transparency in the process, as well as an opportunity to report to the taxpayers and residents the manager's budget recommendations. The CFO, Al Stanley, received budget requests from each department head. We have reviewed each department's requests and worked together to prepare and collect the data for the budget document. We have worked with City Auditor Leon Costello to verify compliance with the state of New Jersey spending cap law, levy cap law, and other budget regulations. The city manager's proposed operating budgets are compliant with the tax levy cap law and the spending cap law. This budget document has been prepared in the format required by the Department of Community Affairs, Division of Local Government Services, and includes the city current fund budget and the water sewer utility budget. The revised budget calendar allows for the introduction of the budget by March 31st and adoption by April 29th, or the next regularly scheduled meeting of the governing body. I am recommending once again this year, at the conclusion of my introduction of the manager's budget, that the mayor and council move to introduce the budget this evening as presented. The mayor and city council will have ample time to review the budget in detail prior to public hearing and adoption, anticipated on May 3rd. At which time an amendment can be introduced if changes are necessary. Several years ago, the state divided all municipalities into 3 groups for self-exam. Brigantine was placed into group 3. On a rotating basis, the budget for one of the groups is reviewed by the Division of Local Government Services for approval prior to council's adoption. This year, groups 1 and 3 are eligible for self-exam and adoption of the budget. All municipal budgets are forwarded to the Division of Local Government Services after adoption. Since 1977, municipal budgets have been prepared in compliance with the spending caps law Each year, municipalities are allowed to increase the budget appropriations based on a percentage index similar to the consumer price index, with certain exceptions. For 2023, the cost of living adjustment is at 2.5%, which limits growth in total appropriations to 2.5%. However, by statute, municipalities are permitted to increase expenditures by 1%, up to 3.5% upon passage of an ordinance. This ordinance has been adopted. Historically, Brigantine has been compliant with the spending caps calculation. In 2010, the tax levy cap law was amended, reducing permitted 4% increase to a 2% limit. Certain exceptions or exclusions are part of the law. The city manager's recommended budget is in compliance with both cap laws. As presented, the proposed 2023 current fund budget is approximately $996,000 under the 2% tax levy cap limit and approximately $1.25 million under the 3.5 spending cap. The manager's 2023 current fund budget, as presented here tonight, equals $34,128,121.52. The local purpose tax of $23,455,881 reflects an increase of $1,461,245.29 from the 2022 local purpose tax of $21,994,635 and results in a 6.64 increase in the tax rate from the previous year. Budgeted revenues for 2023 have been based on the prior year average. The city did not elect a 3-year average calculation in the reserve for uncollected taxes, as permitted by the Division of Local Government Services, but has used a 97.8% as in the previous year's calculation. The city anticipates the need to continue to address the additional resources during the upcoming summer months, as well as the extended stay of seasonal homeowners. Such resources as personnel, capital needs for our recreational facilities, vehicles, and various equipment are necessary to maintain the service required during the height of the season. The city's percentage of tax collections continues to be strong and great at 99.37%. This budget reflects a conservative approach in anticipation of revenues. As of December 31st, 2022, the unaudited fund balance stands at approximately $7 million, which is a decrease of about $750,000 over the 2021 available balance. The use of $3 million in fund balance and $525,000 is $525,000 lower than the amount used in 2022. The $3,525,000 of fund balance that was used in 2022 was not replenished in full due to shortages of miscellaneous anticipated revenues and less of a lapse of 2021 reserve, the fund balance. Total miscellaneous revenues without grants, state aid, and reserve for debt is projected to be approximately $5,200,000 in the 2023 budget. This amount represents a net increase of $341,000 in miscellaneous revenues over the 2022 budget. While the city anticipates that revenues will remain strong in beach tags, work taxes, construction permitting fees, and golf course revenues, the miscellaneous revenues continue to remain conservative and cautious projections for 2023. The city's state aid received was increased by $30,000 in 2023 to $868,496.45, only 2.5% of the city's entire budget. Salaries and wages total $13,449,510. Total appropriations for salaries and wages in the current fund budget are $58,440, less than in 2022, or approximately less than 1% increase, and includes required contractual commitments and anticipated increases in seasonal employees' minimum wage. The accumulated leave reserve at the end of 2022 was $1,143,135.39. Other expenses total $8,615,799 and represents the OE from all departments along with insurance and utility costs. And reflects an increase of $404,703.85 from last year's budget. While the net effect is not substantial, there are ups and downs throughout many line items and departments. The most significant changes were the increases to insurance of $150,000. Those increases were offset by the decreases in anticipated fuel costs of $140,000, digitization of records for $56,000, public buildings and grounds for $48,000, health benefit waivers by $40,000, solid waste disposal for $30,000, golf course ACUA operating expenses of $29,000, recreation program cost of $25,000, stormwater expenses of $20,000. Statutory and deferred charges amount to $3,080,448.81, which represents an increase from 2022 in the amount of $411,262.07, mostly due to the rise in pension costs. Municipal debt service and capital improvement fund. Levelization of debt service continues to be an important initiative of this administration. The 2023 municipal portion of debt is $3,800,768, which reflects an increase of approximately $72,778.88 from 2022. This decrease is mostly due to the payoff of short-term notes in 2022. The city had short-term notes from 2012 and 2013, with 10 years to renew and pay down these notes. Both notes were paid and now expired. The 2023 capital budget of $8,900,000 is for the next 6 years worth of projects. Because of the limitations with materials and contractors in 2022, the city canceled projects for recreational grounds and facilities, road improvements, and beach replenishment to be appropriated once again in 2023. With the anticipation that the city will continue to see more residents continue to occupy the island for a longer duration, and anticipation of the influx of daily summer visitors, there is a need for various capital improvements of recreational facilities and equipment. Reserve for uncollected taxes is a calculation based upon the entire levy of the city, including county and school taxes. The calculation this year remains a conservative one and is based upon the current local purpose tax levy and an estimate of the school and county taxes as well as the prior year collection rate. The 2023 increase is approximately $82,231.52, which brings it to $1,360,379.51. In summary, the manager's 2023 current fund budget, as presented here tonight, equals $34,128,121.52. It represents a conservative approach to revenue projections and includes both increases and decreases in the respective department budgets and other operating expenses. As presented, the local purpose tax is $23,455,881, which is an increase of $1,461,245.29 from 2022, which was $21,994,635.71. Based on the 2023 city assessed value, penny on the tax rate equals $343,415. The local purpose tax rate will increase 3.7 cents, with a 2023 of 68.3 cents for $100 of assessed value. A property with an assessed value of $400,000 will pay approximately $2,732 in local tax. The 2023 tax rate is lower than the 2014 tax rate of 71.1 cents for a property of the same assessed value, which would have been $2,854 in local tax. The water sewer utility budget is supported by the billings and fees charged for the consumption of water by individual customers. Water sewer utility as presented has a proposed balanced budget for 2023 and maintains its self-liquidating status. As such, any capital bond ordinances approved will not require a 5% down payment. The 2023 water sewer utility budget totals $7,493,258 for an increase of $238,403 over the 2022 budget. The proposed 2023 water and sewer budget includes $1,433,258 of fund balance compared to $1,148,797.69 in the 2022 budget. The unaudited fund balance at December 31st, 2022 stands at $3,126,039.68 for a decrease of $651,213.82 over ending fund balance at December 31st, 2021. The fiscal objective still remains continued stabilization of the utility and fund balance while providing funding necessary for infrastructure improvements. However, expected operating revenues are directly tied to the anticipated expenses and the amount of revenue realized in the prior year. Salary and wages total $1,250,000, representing a $0 increase from the 2022 budget and reflects required contractual obligations and appropriate allocations. Other expenses total $3,922,200 for an increase of $166,200 from the 2023 budget, mostly due to an increase in wastewater treatment, rented bathroom facilities, fuel, and building maintenance. Debt expense totals $2,078,058 compared to $2,005,855 in 2023 for an increase of $72,203 due to increasing interest rates. Deferred charges, there aren't any deferred charges in this budget. Statutory expenses are $243,000, remain the same for 2023 as in 2022. The capital budget included in the 2023 budget is a 6-year plan combined for the city and water sewer utility. This capital budget represents a total of potential capital improvements of approximately $52,150,000 over a 6-year period. The capital expenditures for 2023 are estimated to be about $13.5 million, of which $4 million of that relates to water and sewer utility. The water and sewer will require significant investment over the next 6 years due to the aging of infrastructure and state mandated requirements. The city plans to continue to concentrate on road repair, paving, stormwater improvements, and various recreational and building improvements throughout the state. In closing, the city's budget in 2023 once again managed in a professionally and fiscally sound manner. This has been achieved through long-term budgeting and projections, maintaining proper allocation methods and sound financial record while providing the necessary reserve for future expenditures. Through a conservative approach to budgeting on revenues and limiting growth on discretionary expenditures, the city remains in sound financial position and does not rely on one-time revenues to balance this budget. The recommended budget allows the city to continue to provide the same services in 2023 as in the past. This budget also provides for a very stable future. As always, I am available to meet with Mayor and City Council to review the budget and to provide any additional information as necessary. I would like to once again thank the city employees and the department heads for their service and dedication to the city of Brigantine, for their assistance in the budget preparation process. I continue to be thankful for their support as well as their ability to work together to continue to provide the level of service expected by our residents. Also, I would like to thank Al Stanley, Finance Department, and City Auditor Leon Costello for their help and input in the development of the city manager's recommended budget. As I stated at the beginning of this presentation, I now ask Mayor and Council to consider introducing this budget this evening, keeping in mind that any questions and concerns can be addressed from this point on and until the public hearing on May 3rd. Should any changes be required, an amendment will be presented for approval to reflect those changes. Thank you very much.
I guess I'd like to ask, how does our budget compare to other municipalities at this time?
If you've been reading the papers recently, the budget that we just did 2 weeks ago was 8.4% increase. One last night was 4.9% increase. Galloway was 3.3% increase. These are the ones that have been introduced so far. Northwell was just adopted last night, it was 3.9. All these numbers are kind of the same. It's been a bad year with the additional costs everyone's had. There's different circumstances that why one's better than the other. I still have 2 more that'll be out, that'll be over 6, but I can't tell you who they are because I say that, not me. So I don't want to be in the paper, but it's going to be where they say it. So, still some more than the 3 and 4 range. Everybody was waiting to adopt and introduce their budgets because they want to see where the trends were. And every town I've been to since November, I've been saying it's not going to be good this year. There's going to be issues with every budget with the increases. You had a little bit of a break in your healthcare compared to some other towns. Some other people really have more with healthcare increase. Pension is the same for everybody. Your police and fire department got pension up almost 17%. The other item that you had was, if you listen to the manager, the fund balance dropped. First time since in 10 years, the fund balance has dropped. Revenues weren't as good as they were. And that is a $500,000 hole, $525,000 hole for almost a cent and a half that we have to make up for the loss of revenue. Hopefully that comes back next year. I know that Al's been working on things to boost the revenue, and there's 2 items that he's working on that are going to fix the revenue. So all in all, you're in the lower part of the increases. Not the rest of the world, more big ones are coming out. It's your first increase. I had a chart. You were 71-1, 71-0, 69-9, 67-7, 66-5, 64-8, 63-5, and 64-6 for the past 2 years. Decreases essentially every year since 2014. School likewise, 52-1, 52-2, 52 even, 51-7, 55, 51-0, 50.5, 49-8, 49-4, and that's going to be down a couple of ticks again this year. We have finished the first lesson, we know the number, and there will be a slight decrease in school time. So all in all, and none of these are lessons from the ugly year for me, because everything is me is bad news. But it is what it is, and hopefully these costs don't repeat anymore. The state did nothing for the towns, I mean, nothing. There's no help at all. Fitness and state aid was spread out almost all the towns. Most of the schools got money, some didn't, some got cut, but most of them got money. No real help from the municipality side. There's a promise of $200 million if you saw the governor's budget for next year. State health benefits, certain requirements are met by state health benefits. That one will be out. We'll see. That's a wish right now. I don't think you can see a 22% will even have state health benefits, but all the towns that do see that kind of an increase again. That's just unreasonable. Pension, hopefully that levels off some, although it should, because investments now are up, so the rate that they're earning on the investments should cover some of the increase, but we'll see. Like the manager also mentioned, is that the public hearing will be on May 3rd, at which time we can amend any line that's legal to amend. You've already paid pension bills, and you couldn't touch them anyhow. With that service, we can't change. So there are only certain things that you can change if you decide to. That's kind of a summary, and you will have more to present in pictures for the adoption. Okay.
For the pension payments, that's all set by the state, correct?
Oh, yeah. You get a bill and you pay it. God doesn't pay, he goes to jail, he's home, not pay you. You get the bill yourself.
I think something you brought this up too, and I think something that's important to note. I don't know if you're here, but something that's important to note too is with there's dramatic increases in the state health benefits program for the employees' payments. But for Brigantine, we're in a coastal hit, and that coastal hit saved the taxpayers of Brigantine over $200,000. I know that the state auditor had said that there would be a greater savings by being in the state health benefits program, but that just wasn't the case. So with this tax savings of over $200,000, we're able to provide quality benefits for our employees, and we're still able to provide tax savings for the taxpayers in the scenes. So I think that's something that's really important to note. We were adamant about going through that process. Also, too, for our budget, this budget has a strong focus on capital improvements and debt reduction. When we talk about reducing the debt, 2022 to this year, we reduced debt over $72 million. And that's important. Part of that has to do with there was 2 short-term notes for 2012 and 2013, and rather than extending that and going out to long-term debt, we worked to pay that off. So part of what we're trying to do is make sure that we balance the long-term needs of the city, also the financial responsibilities of what we do here. And as we heard, part of this tax increase is a direct result of the rapid inflation that is driving up costs across the board for every municipality in the state. The other part of this represents the investments that we're making in our community. The city has almost 52 million planned in capital improvements for the next 6 years. So we're focused on improving roads, recreational facilities, public buildings, our water and sewer system. And I want to note that some of our water and sewer systems here in the city are original. One of the things we're running into was a lot of emergency collapses, especially with our sewer lines. The concrete pipes fall apart. It is much more expensive to do an emergency repair than it is to plan to start to do this. Same thing with our beaches. You see the beach replenishment that's going on out there. We want to make sure that we make investments here in the community, and that's a big part of what we're doing with the money that comes in. As I said, levelization of debt service continues to be an important initiative of this administration, and that's what we're going to work on. A lot of times municipalities really try to work to completely get rid of debt. I will tell you that I don't think that that's a real good philosophy. What is better to do is to manage debt. If you can keep debt level, as debt falls off, replace it with new debt, it keeps your tax payments level. You can predict if my tax payments are here and kind of keep the budget. When you see people with the ups and downs because they have debt, they get rid of debt, they have debt, they get rid of debt, that creates too much chaos when you're trying to deal with the budget. So one of the things we really try to do is long-term strategic planning when it comes to our budgets to make sure that we manage that debt in a responsible way. One of the things I really want to encourage all of our council members, take time to meet with our financial team, meet with our city manager, our CFO, and our auditor, go over the budget, whatever questions you have, make sure that you fully understand it before we vote on this on May 3rd. I will tell you, I've done that many, many times, and I can say that there's no better person than Leon Costello when it comes to understanding and explaining the budget. And I can tell you that, Leon, I feel like over the last decade, you've really raised it up well to understand this budgeting. So I want to thank you for that. At this time, I'll open up to council if anybody has questions or comments.
One next thing there is it was meant that you're well under the spending cap and the levy cap.
Yeah.
And the reason that you're under so much is we've been conservative over the years. We have large banks in both of them, and we still have a large bank remaining in both of them. A lot of these other towns, these big numbers are right to the max. So you still have a good financial position moving forward on those two caps, which is important.
Absolutely. One of the things too, and I know Ryan talked about this, but this budget does not rely on any one-time revenues. And you'll see there's a number of municipalities who have used, especially like some COVID money and infrastructure money that's come out from the state to balance the budgets. Well, those one-time revenues, you got to come up with that money in the next budget. And that's why you're seeing some of these large tax increases. There's even some municipalities now that are still relying on that. And that's something we were smart about. When that COVID money came in, instead of putting it into the current fund, one of the things we did is actually have some water towers. Use it for something that's going to benefit the community that's not going to have a long-term detriment to the budget. And that's really the advice and counsel of our financial team. We're very, very lucky to have them to look at, not just, hey, how do we keep things as cheap as possible? It's about doing things correctly. And that's one of the things I know they all advocate for. So very, very grateful for that. And I know one of the things Roxanne told me too, and I know she's not here, but she said really a lot of the success we had when it comes to our budget is the responsibility of our department heads. So I'm going to thank our department heads for all the work you guys do to make sure that we keep these budgets under control. So thank you for all your efforts, our financial team. Thank you for all your efforts. There's no other questions. All right, we have roll call.
Lettieri? Yes. Hany?
Yes.
Delugri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Just thought of something before I vote. Last week I had an opportunity to meet many of the mayors of the county. And there wasn't one mayor at this meeting that said there was a tax cut in any of the municipalities that were present. Is that the case? Is there any community in Atlantic County at all that has cut tax this year? Not that I know of. So not one town out of 23 townships in Atlantic County was able to cut taxes this year. And I know from that meeting also that some of the mayors were saying that there was increases of what Leon just stated, over 8%, another township 8.5, 8.7. So, I do have some other questions, but I want to meet you guys and roll some things first before I ask any other questions. But considering all of that, I vote yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Again, thank you for all the work you guys have done to this, Brian. Thank you. We appreciate it. Have a good us.
Motion carried.
See you in 4 weeks. If anybody wants to go over it, I'm more than happy to spend their time more.
Yeah, I'd say if anybody wants to go over the budget, which I highly suggest, reach out to the city manager. You can coordinate times. We can do meetings to groups of up to 3. So I would highly encourage you guys to take them up on this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Man, how's your Sunday looking?
Yeah. I work every day, so it doesn't matter.
Perfect, thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Ordinance number 3 of 2023. This is a public hearing and adoption. This is, an ordinance amending chapter 210-37, article 2 of the code of the city of Brigantine. Portion as it relates to fees. I want to bring everybody's attention. There's 2 typos on here. If you look at the middle box under section T, item E, on the right hand side, it says $7 per hour, or per hour per person. It should say $7 per session per person, and under that, it should say $2 per session per person. Just want to make sure everybody knew that those were 2 typos. We have to amend, or since it's a typo. It's a typo, and I think you're fine with the document. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
At this time, we'll open up to the public hearing. Anybody wishing to be heard on this issue, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. Seeing no public participation, we'll close the public portion. Any council comments? At this time, we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lucre?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have ordinance number 5 of 2023, and this is a public hearing and adoption, and this is an ordinance amending section 210-37 of the code of the city of Brigantine, amending a fee for floodplain management. We have a motion second.
I'll make the motion. Second.
All right, it's time to open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to be heard on this issue, please come up, state your name and address for the record. I see no public participation. We'll close the public hearing. Any council comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lucre? Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023 -56, and this is a resolution by the city of Brigantine, New Jersey, authorizing appointment of law office Carl N. Tripperson as alternate and conflict prosecutor, and this is at a rate of $150 per hour on an as-needed basis. And motion second.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lucre?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-57, and this is a resolution by the city of Brigantine, New Jersey, authorizing the award of contract to CNE Associates for design, construction, management, and inspection services for the repair or replacement of the sanitary sewer stormwater system at various locations in Brigantine, New Jersey. And this is in the lowest responsible bid amount of $33,150. We have a motion second.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lucre?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-68, and this is a resolution by the city of Brigantine authorizing Trinity Code Inspections LLC to perform construction inspections on an interim basis. And this is on an ad-need basis at a rate of $75 per hour. We have a motion second.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lucre?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-69, this is a resolution by the city of Brigantine, New Jersey, authorizing the award of an emergency contract to West Bay Construction for sewer collapse at 34th and Half Street Alley by Ocean Avenue. And this is in the amount of $115,850. We have a motion second.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-70, this is a resolution authorizing the rejection of bids received for the roof replacement of the cupola removal at City Hall, the city of Brigantine. Two bids were received, both of which were over the architect's estimated cost for the project, and the architect recommends the bid be rejected and recommends the project be rebid. We have a motion and second.
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call? There a question? I apologize.
Was there any thought of changing the specs, adjusting that, or they think a rebid?
I'm not sure. I'll ask.
Yes, well, basically, we did change the specs for the second one we were about to rebid it. Basically, the prices came in way higher than we anticipated, and that was part of the reason getting rejected bids.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-71, this is a resolution authorizing change order number 1 final for the contract with Charles Marandino LLC for various drainage improvements and reconstruction of the Fourth of Revere Boulevard. And this is in a net decrease of $17,302.52. We have a motion second.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-72, the real estate tax refunds. We have a motion second.
So move. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 23-73 is a real estate tax, this is a real estate tax refund. We have a motion second.
So move. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-74, this is a cancellation for real estate for 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran. We have a motion second.
So move. Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Say I'm proud that we're able to do this for our veterans. Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-75, and this is a PDA roadway solicitation. We have a motion second.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Chief, to update on what we're soliciting for?
This is a solicitation for the Unity Tour. So it's there'll be members who participate in the Unity Tour. They ride their bicycles from here all the way down to Washington DC for the memorial. The memorial down in Washington. So it raises funds for that and it raises awareness. They ride right into the memorial and it's a really good event.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? We know we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delutri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-76, this is a resolution by the city of Brigantine, New Jersey, authorizing the award of contract with Beckett Engineering, BT Inc., for engineering services for the evaluation of the HVAC system at the City Hall complex in Brigantine. This was a bid amount of $6,000. We have a motion second.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Lettieri?
Yeah.
Hany?
Yes.
Delupri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yeah.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we have our consent agenda. We have the Brigantine DFW raffle license number 996, Brigantine DFW raffle license number 997, Brigantine American Legion raffle license number 998, volleyball tournament request, soccer tournament request, Chamber of Commerce bonfire request. We have a motion second.
We had one today, and we had the PBA came in with a last minute one for a license, and we're going to get it on today. And they don't get it on today, it's we too late.
Yeah.
Raffle license number 999.
Got it.
Take it off.
All right, any questions or comments? Do you have a motion second? Oh, Michael, second.
I'll second.
All right, perfect. Questions or comments? Seeing none, we have roll call.
Lettieri?
Yes.
Hany?
Yes.
Delupri?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Mayor Sarah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have our council manager committee discussions.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, bring up a couple things that I mentioned at the last meeting. We have two bids that are coming up. The first would be, next Wednesday. Bids are due for the food and beverage concessionaire for the King Golf Links. And then Thursday, April 20th, the bids are due for the human resource. So we should have those in next one. And that's all I have.
Everything clear?
Now, it's basically work on budget for this is that's enough work for now. That's, we'll get ready for the year.
Turn it over to our departments. Turn it over to Councilman Paul here.
I'm going to reserve any comments till after the public.
Dennis Haney?
Thank you, Mayor. We recently met with a few of our residents here in Third Ward regarding the ongoing problems we had with some of the short-term rentals and resort type houses. Some of those situations acting in conjunction with each other. There will be, Mayor's going to speak to this in a little bit himself, but there will be a committee appointed to that effect. The wind turbine situation continues, the denial and everything of the whales not being the cause of the sonic testing and everything that's going on affecting the whales. And recently, obviously, we had the dolphins just beach themselves in Seattle, and it's a good fight continues on regarding that. Nose to the grindstone, so to speak. It was a busy Sunday, this past Sunday. Saturday pushed a few things back with that windy, nasty weather we had. First of all, just like to thank Public Works for all the work they had to do. We had the parade, at the Stockton crew races out there. So a lot of, and also along with that, our police department and fire departments for all the work that they did, and just also just being on standby for anything else that might happen. I think that was the men's and women's both, am I correct? With the Stockton, I believe it was men's and women's racing, I believe. So a real nice turnout. I mean, I was just driving along like being in that area of Bayshore, I saw a good bit going on there. The Brigantine baseball and softball parade, a really nice turnout for that. A lot of kids, the people signing up, there's been a substantial increase, I should say, in children signing up for the baseball and the softball programs. Tom Peachy does an excellent job with that. He's really brought the program along. You have good leadership. It brings in more people. That's exactly what's happening. It was really nice to see the infield, complete infield, just lined with kids, like full to the brim. So just kind of reminded me to go back to the way it was packed, the way it was just a short little while ago. Also, make note that the Easter Bunny was on hand too for the Easter egg hunt for the kids for afterwards. A very nice event, Apple for Teacher, for our beloved Stacy Pecora, who passed away a short while ago. I knew Stacy personally. I coached with her husband, Guy, coached the kids. We coached baseball together, street hockey, all stars together. Just a really sweet gal. And just to really have the education and the well-being of the children at our forefront and within our heart. There's a real outpouring of love and support this past Sunday at the VFW. It was packed. It was a great turnout, and God bless. And finally, the Elks installation, which had another good council representation. Mark Virgilio was installed as the new exalted ruler, along with some other officers appointed to their positions. There was a lot of other dignitaries throughout the state from the Elks. And they also they recognized the achievements of our founding member, Harry McGarrigle, another just awesome individual who we recently lost, but a long and full life, and Harry left a great, incredible legacy. And actually, the little Bayside little bar area out there, and it's going to be named after Harry, so that should be really nice once they get that going. And then one last thing regarding that Elks installation, or that event at the Elks, there was a Citizen of the Year named at that event. And it just so happens to be up here in the past with us. So congratulations, Vince. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
God, I was going to say money. I just want to thank all of our professionals and our department heads for all their work and budget. Look forward, I'm really enthusiastic. I look forward to going through it and talking with you these next couple of weeks. I'm going to defer comments as Paul did on the short-term rental to the subject is going to be discussed by Vince and certainly by members of the public, other than to say that when, my understanding, when we first created the opportunity for these short-term rentals, intentions were good. And part of the reason was to make it possible for homeowners to defray some of the expenses of carrying the larger houses, which generally will have a larger tax bill and larger carrying costs. There are unintended consequences sometimes, and that is, I think, where we are right now. We are seeing what happens in practice over time when the regulatory structure is, if not absent, not effective. So, in my opinion, and see what the contours of this end up being, I think it's time for us to take action and to remedy what is obviously an untenable situation.
Right. Let the record reflect, somebody clapped.
Who was that one?
Is Bobby here? No, that's all. Thank you.
I just have a couple of things. And it was a busy weekend, and Dennis covered a lot of the great baseball parade where you would think the baseball song. Oh, sorry. So it was a great weekend involved with the opening of the baseball songs. Braves thing had for the beach. That's always a fun day for all cases. My heart goes out to one of the some coaches and one of the young ladies that have one of the Jen Green sweet answer. Grew up in Brigantine here for many years and did a lot of great work with our kids. So my heart goes out to my condolences to the family and friends. Again, we went to the ceremony at the Elks, the installation of all the walkers. It's an amazing ceremony. And I'm going to be asked to be there with an inspector from there, and it's got a citizen in here, so that was made it really special evening for all of us. We also went to the Stacy Report benefit at the VFW, great crowd there. Stacy's a teacher here at our school, and all the kids went to Brigantine School. So that was a nice event in her memory. Another one. Love that passed away from cancer. Garden Club met the other evening. A lot of great work. They're getting ready to kick off their season and start their work. A lot of amazing, dedicated people that do it all for free. A lot of work goes into that. So I can't thank them enough. I tried to thank them at the meeting the other night, but it's hard to explain to people how much work they actually do. And the beautification that they make the time.
not just coming in and out and all side streets and everything, so they really did an amazing job. If you ever get the chance to see them, please thank them for me. They don't get a dime, they work very hard. And, of course, we got to thank John Doyle because he's the one that guides everything, and makes everything happen, so, that's all I got, but, thank you, appreciate it.
Mike Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, as always, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight to discuss some of the issues that we have going on in the island and listen to what's going on. We appreciate your presence and, thanks again. Cultural Arts Commission on April 22nd, Saturday, April 22nd, is celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Cultural Arts Commission. It was started 30 years ago by our Phil Gunther. He'll be the guest speaker there at the Elks on a Saturday night at 6 p.m. There's going to be a live band, dancing, dinner. It's going to be a great night. Vince is going to speak as well. So you're all invited to come on out to the Elks and celebrate 30 years of our Cultural Arts Commission. After that, we have the Economic Development Committee will be meeting next week, talk about a lot of the new businesses that are opening up and things that are planned for the summer. So looking forward to that. The Lions Club has a big classic car show coming up in June 4th. Frank here in the second row is the chairman. So if anyone has the classic cars, you want to get more info about it, you go to Frank. Thank you, Frank. Also, with everything that was going on Sunday here on the island, which was a great day, and congratulations, Mayor, on your Citizen of the Year award. That was fabulous. But there was also another great event going on down in Ventnor, and I know some of our people here in the room tonight were down there in support of the moratorium to stop the drilling and geomapping in the ocean for the time being to find out what's killing over 50 whales and dolphins off our coast and some of our neighbor states. So it was a great event, well attended, and thank you for your support for that, which we all support up here. Other than that, that's about it. I want to keep it short, but as always, if anybody has any questions or troubles, you can always call my number on the front page 2 times, and I'm here for you. Thank you. Thank you.
I know that everyone was trying to listen. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. As to our Brigantine baseball and softball opening first day is one of the best I've ever seen. There were so many children that were there. I think there's 4 more teams that had 4 big credits to that program growing is baseball commissioner Tom Rapici. In the summer, he held a number of what he called sandbox games. So every Thursday, any kid from the community can come out and play. And I think it really started to develop a love of the game for a lot of people here. And I know some of the children that I spoke to the opening day had talked about, they really got excited about playing by being there. I know our Chamber of Commerce also helped to sponsor that event. So our chamber does work very, very hard. The chamber members work very, very hard with our community. A big issue that came up with our chamber members has to do with the governor's proposed changes with liquor licenses. Our chamber members on the island who hold liquor licenses had a lot of questions about what the governor was trying to do with those changes. So the chamber reached out to me and we set up a meeting with our state representatives. We had Senator Vince Palestina, Assembly Representatives Claire Cook and Don Gardy come in and kind of talk about that perspective. One of the biggest concerns that our chamber members had is, I guess, the 2 aspects of the proposed changes. One, they would basically say unlimited. They want to severely increase the number of liquor licenses that a municipality can have. They also want to cut the cost. So liquor licenses go from anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. People who own bars and restaurants with liquor license either pay to have those licenses or they have high interest loans that they're working to pay down. And if all of a sudden you just give them out like candy and let everybody have them, the total cost comes to about $15,000. it would severely hurt our business owners. So we wanted to make sure that we had our state representatives come in and explain kind of what's going on. And also so that our state representatives kind of hear the concerns from the local businesses here in Brigantine, so they can take those concerns back to the government. You know, one of the things Senator Vince Palestino let everybody know is that right now there is very, very little support to make these changes. But he wanted to know, is there anything that could work? Are there any aspects of this law that could go forward? Because he felt he might be in a position to negotiate with the government. So they had a good discussion with that. Like I said, I'm very happy for the work with the chamber that is helping to bring that meeting together to make sure that our business owners here in Brigantine got the answers that they really needed. One of the things that I think made them feel a lot better is that the way the laws are being proposed, it's not that the state is going to impose it on every municipality. If the state makes the changes, it would be up to each individual municipality to accept those changes. And as it stands right now, I don't see that we need unlimited liquor licenses here in Brigantine, so I let them know that as it stands, I do not need Brigantine to support those changes. So they felt more comfortable with that. You know, I think that's part of the big thing is having those communications. So again, I want to thank the chamber. We had our board of school estimates meeting. So if you're not familiar with the school board, puts together a budget. There's a board of school estimates, which is made up of council members and school board members. And if the budget doesn't pass the board of school estimates, it has to go back to the school board for revisions. I can tell you that the board of school estimates unanimously passed this year's budget. There is no tax increase this year for the school board. And honestly, there hasn't been a tax increase for the school board in I think about a decade. One of the things that's really impressive with our school districts, over the last 6 years, they've lost $1.4 billion in state aid. Even though they lost that money, they kept making cuts and controlling expenses to keep taxes flat or to put out tax decreases where they could. A big part of that is reductions in staff. What the school does is they do it through attrition. As people retire and leave, if it's not a position they have to keep, they do not keep the position. So next year's school budget is a reduction of 3.5 positions. Something that I know a lot of people might not be aware of, but we used to have a superintendent and a principal. We no longer have both those positions. When the principal left, it became a combined position, which is a big tax savings for the people of Brigantine. So I know that our school board is doing an outstanding job keeping those taxes under control. Something that's really impressive about the school, for the first time in 20 years, they were recognized by CUSAC as a high-performing school district. CUSAC, if you don't know, but CUSAC is basically the state agency that evaluates schools. When they came in and evaluated Brigantine, they designated us, as I said, for the first time in 20 years, as a high-performing school district. So we're starting to see a lot of really good changes with our new superintendent that's there in the school. One of the questions I was getting is students on roll. Right now, we have about 451 students on roll. That's something that you see that is very common in a lot of the short communities. As home prices go up, a lot of families have either sold to take advantage of those high prices, and young families just don't have the money to move in. A long time ago, there was a superintendent who was there who actually did what they call a birth rate study on the school. And what he did is he looked at basically what the birth rates for the community to do a projection over time of where we thought the student population would be. And he projected that the school population would probably level off somewhere between 400 and 500 students, and that's what we're seeing. So I think part of that long-term projection is something that we're using, at least the school board is using, when they're thinking about budgets, when they're thinking about staffing. The school has moved forward on the demo of part of the original part of the building. The old part of the building needed some repairs. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I would say it's probably about 1.2 or 1.3 million just to fix the roof. It made more sense, and this is something we had been talking about for a long time, to actually demo that part of the building, not maintain it, not staff it, and not keep it. One of the concerns for the community is what if the school population grows? Right now, in the existing building that's left, the school population could almost double and they would need to expand the school, so the school would have room to grow. And it made sense long-term for the district to kind of not keep putting money into that old part of the building and just tear it down. They're gonna be returning that part of the building back to green space. That green space would be used for the district, or be used for the school. They're gonna be doing outside things there, community gardens. The superintendent has a lot of good plans for that. I personally would like to see the farmers market move over to there, but I know the farmers market committee is kind of back and forth on that. But I'd like to see when it's done and what the space is available, because I think it would make sense to move it back towards the green area and green space. So that's something, me personally, that I would be excited to see, but that's something we would need support from on the farmers market community. One of the big things with the school is school safety. Part of the school's budget is they're replacing all of the interior doors within the building. We've seen with some of the recent school shootings, there's been issues in where people have come in and got into buildings where they shouldn't. I know our superintendent has really made a high priority in making sure that the building is safe. So that was one of the big things. Their HVAC system needs to be replaced. They're working on that. Also, they're updating their security camera system and replacing things. As they get old, things need to be replaced. Part of that is their security camera system will also connect here with the Brigantine Police Department, so they'll be able to see what's going on inside the school. If there's an emergency or something happens, they'll be able to respond right away. Big thing that I thought was really important is the district is doing updates to the auditorium sound and visual. Like, so basically in the performing arts area, we do a lot of community things in there. And one of the complaints we've had from the community is that the sound system, the light system don't work, that the seats are outdated. So the superintendent is working to kind of bring that more in line with what we need to make sure that we can open it up for the community more. I know one of the big things is Casey's Dance Studio here in the island holds a lot of their performances there. This year they're going to be in Ocean City because the repairs are going to be going on about the same time of that. But it'd be nice to kind of bring them home and have them be in a place that the lights and sounds work. Big thing, and I know this is what a lot of people are here to talk about. You know, one of the things that city council is going to do is start to address some of the short-term rental concerns that are happening here in the community. One of the things that I kind of want to state up front, because I think it's important. One, for everybody who's here in the room, for everybody who's here in the community, I don't want people to think about this as an us versus them mentality. It's not. That's not how things work. How I would like to define this as we move forward is all of us against the problem. As I said in the last meeting, every single person here on city council wants to help. We want to make sure that what we do works and makes sense. One of the things I've been working with Councilman Dennis Haney, Councilman Paul Tier. I can tell you one of the things we found is that almost every municipality was trying to address short-term rental concerns. It's there. There's reasons they fail. One, they pass things that they themselves can't enforce. Two, they pass things that they can't afford to do. Three, and I think this is the most important, they don't talk to the community. Oftentimes you get people who are in elected positions who do things out of knee-jerk reaction because, hey, there's a panic, I got people yelling at me, I have to do something. Or they pass things because they think they know things and never took the time to talk to people about what would really make a difference. And that's something I think we need to do. Yesterday, actually today's newspaper, Upper Township, they had a vote on this week about some short-term regulations that they were going to put in, and they were really going after the short-term one. They were going to hammer them on these regulations. A number of people showed up from the community because what they were trying to pass wasn't what the community wanted. They ended up having to table and start over. That's not a process I want to go down. One of the things that all of us believe is whatever action we take, it needs to be together and it needs to be right. It has to address all of the concerns with all of the stakeholders involved. And that's something that we're going to do. So we're going to be putting together a subcommittee of council The goal of this subcommittee is to first review the city's current short-term rental regulations, and then to develop a solid plan on how the city can better address the community's concerns surrounding short-term rental properties. We're going to have representatives on the subcommittee. We're going to be meeting with small groups of homeowners, business owners, realtors, property managers, and short-term rental property owners in order to develop this plan. The reason we want to meet in small groups, and I've seen this in a number of public meetings, you get a large group together, you'll have 3 or 4 people who monopolize the entire meeting, and not everybody's voice is heard. So you might come to a meeting and sit there for an hour and never get to ask the question you wanted to ask, or never make the statement you wanted to make. So we're going to take time, meet with people in small groups, so this way we have the opportunity to make sure that we truly hear what people have to say. In all of these meetings, we have 2 goals. One, especially for the homeowners. What are the specific issues and problems you're having? 2, what is the resolution that you would like to see? Because a lot of times we look at the problems, we assume we know the resolution, but I think we need to find out specifically, this is just simple customer service. Something goes wrong, how do you make it right? And that's going to be the goal of what we're doing. And there's another side of this. As frustrating as it is for our homeowners who have to put up with a lot of nonsense, the other side of that coin is our businesses depend on the short-term rental people who come in. We do not have hotels. So one of the things we need to do is start those discussions to bridge those gaps between what all of the stakeholders involved in the community need. Bring something forward, make a plan that people can buy into. And I think this is where a lot of other municipalities fail. And this is what we would like to do, we would like to bring forward. So what I would like to do at this time is I would like to appoint the following committee. I would like Ryan First, our acting city manager, myself, Councilman Paul Terry, Councilman Dennis Haney. From the police department, I would like Bill Hoffman. From fire prevention inspection, I would like Jack Murray. From code enforcement, I would like Mark. We have them both in the seconds. We'll appoint the short-term rental subcommittee.
I'll make that.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Lynn, can we have a roll call?
Terry,
Yeah.
Amy,
Yes.
Salisbury,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
motion carried.
So now the first step of this, I'm talking to the manager about this. What we're going to do is we're putting together an online form. We're going to post it up on the city's website. We will push that form out and give people the opportunity who want to be involved in this to be able to sign up on that. We'll have on there whether what they represent, whether it's homeowners, realtors, business owners. We'll set up groups with homeowners. I would like to set up groups based on community, based on like geographic areas, because what I found in the community, people who live in the same areas tend to have the same problems. So let's identify what goes on and where a lot of the hotspot issues are here. The other thing we've got to start to look at too is, some of our city ordinances as well. And one of the things we're going to be doing is getting internal. We hear from a lot of people that are here the issues that are going on. What are the challenges that our city departments are facing in addressing those issues or dealing with the things that are coming forward? And that's something we have to identify. There's things that we can do internally to make things better, move things along, push that further. As we talk to other communities, one of the biggest things is enforcement. Let's say that again, one of the biggest issues communities have is enforcement. Some of the communities that have been really successful with this, they've had a full-time code enforcement official who was dedicated specifically to that job. And that's something I think we need to look at. Talking with a lot of communities down in Florida, they use their police for bigger issues that are emerging. What they do with the full-time code enforcement people is when people have issues and people have complaints, those code enforcement officials have a list of all the property owners. They can hear what the complaints are and address them specifically because that is their task. This is something I think we need to get more information on and have people that are dedicated towards that. A big part of that as well is also going to be covering the expense of that employee. I don't know that it needs to be a full-time employee. It could throw up to that. It could be a combination of part-time employees. It's something we need to look at. But as I said, enforcement is going to be a big part of that. We will have more information that is coming out. As soon as that form is ready, I'm gonna make sure I go over the manager to make sure that it has everything that we need to collect information to get these going. We'll have that out, we'll push it up on out on the social media sites as well as the website, and make sure that our newspapers also know about that and get that out to the public. The big part of this is making sure that we have discussions and then we just have focused, I'm gonna say open and honest discussions. So we can make sure that the direction the city takes is meaningful and properly addressing the problem. All right, this time I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anybody wishing to be heard, please come up, state your name and address for the record. One up that.
My Virginia is the fire lady in the driver. First of all, for value for our show is my daughter. So you for passage, but I can't get a little cars anymore. I changed it from 1922 to 2022. Any kind of people that want to have, we're trying to get some new car dealers into that regular people. But if you bring your car, you can change the car, bring $20,000. You got a 20 trophy to do out, and no cat with this new car, the best car in Sugar. So I hope it's going to come and bring it. Another thing I gotta say is, council, committee, people, the people, every audience, like, we should all happy Thanksgiving again. Happy Easter. And so, I like, our 12 people coming, I know we're thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Davis 5.
Good evening, everybody. Andrea Sullivan, 2000 Ocean Avenue. Bob Gordon also, he was the residents. Mayor Sarah, that's wonderful. I'm all in favor of like committees, but what I do, because I'm a public school teacher from Philly, you know, to me, it's sometimes synonymous with someone to stall. I just hope that we can get into these committees, put the pedal to the metal, and let's get some resolution, like not next month, next season, whatever, like ASAP, because this is the need to grab it, you can to get grab. Pretty much these per diem rentals are concentrated in what they call endearingly big mansion areas where they have these large rooms with multiple bathrooms, multiple bedrooms. They can pack in, they say 18, because that keeps it under the radar. But we're actually packing in dozens of people. We're seeing, and my neighbors were announced for it, and you can call too. They have these blacked out window, like limo buses, chauffeuring, I don't know where they come from, but they're picking them up and they're delivering them, and they're picking them up and taking them. And I also have one question, but I don't, but if you guys, I bombarded my email city of our country. There's also this thing with an admission charge per event. And if you rent one of these McMansions and you're charging like $100 per person at the very minimum to gain access to the event, to be sponsored by, I'm not gonna throw a name out there because I don't know if it's a legal liability, but you know, the Winter Retreat went off the schedule on Wednesday, the 29th of March at 406 20th Street. Paul was there. I told Dennis about it. And we were charging admission and you have papers roll up, advertising like Star, I think was an indicator. They serve everything from food, and I think also there's alcohol beverage, which might be an option in some of these events. So my question is, with the liquor, do they require a liquor license? If, like you're saying a wedding, you may have got like a second for 50 people who is a per person charge of one open bar. Are they allowed to factor that into the admission card and use the residence when like you're having a social event or reception where they're going to dispense the alcohol? I just have a question with all this, like, the alcohol, what's impacting the neighborhood? And it's one thing to come down and rent a house. You got your friends, you're gonna wait for, your girls for a week, family, your husbands. But when you're renting them out, 1 or 2 nights, where they bring in the catering crew, they bring in the serving crew, they bring in the cleanup crew, and then you're charging a per person visit, and these people are not relatives. They're just straight strangers that find them on the internet and plug in their reservation and do whatever to pay their reservation, and then they show up. It's more of a commercial enterprise than a residential use, and that's what my beef is. It's a commercial use of a residential property. Now, let's see something done before this raises out of control. Let me hear from you. I think they might know, thank you.
I believe it's very good.
Seasonally Pleasant Street, 3. I was disappointed to read about the formation of the subcommittee, including representatives from the police department, code enforcement, fire prevention, and the city manager to address short-term rental problems. You propose to meet with stakeholders on this issue: homeowners, business owners, realtors, property managers, and short-term rental property owners to ensure the city's plan addresses this problem. Is it standard procedure to include as stakeholders those who are violating the city's municipal code, and in so doing harming those who are obeying it? Why is there a reluctance, and it appears to me that there is, to follow the legal procedures in our code and end these abuses? Time is not on the side of the law abiding this situation. Their values should not be compromised. The council needs to reread E-Code 360, sections 1, 2, and 3, and also look at the city's zoning map. There is an obvious legal difference between a resort house and what is called a traditional seasonal rental, and a city licensed and properly zoned bed and breakfast. Such resort houses should have been protected and disallowed by now if authorities, as listed in 246, sections 3 and 4, had been doing the required and thorough examination inspection. I'm quoting now from 246 in the E-Code, section 3. Headline, policy statement. Quote, it's the stated policy of the city that every property containing rental units shall be required to submit to registration and licensing for the protection of the public, for the enforcement of land use ordinances and, such as zoning, etc., for protecting the city in providing facilities involving sewer, water, fire protection, etc., and for the promotion of public health and safety. Our code says, quote, a resort house is a commercial use appropriate only in areas zoned for hotel, motel use, and has never been permitted as a legal use under existing ordinance standards, unquote. Brigantine single-family neighborhoods should not become the haven for per diem rental industry, which is where we're heading. The city has a plan, it's in your code. And council has a duty to follow it with urgency. What you're proposing now can take quite a while. You have another season lost, and another season will have to endured by the people who are being exposed to what is a commercial use in their single family zone. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, just 2 things to address. One, I think you made the assumption that every short-term rental property owner is a problem. There are some that are a problem, there are many that there are no issues with, which is why I feel we should make sure that we include all lists. Two, to address your specific concern about public responsibility of the council. One of the first meetings that we set up in the term meeting to see how we can better implement those regulations. What you pointed out to us. So the people who shouted is in sales. I'm going to sit down. What the barriers? What are the issues? What preventing us? If there's something we can do to remove those barriers, we want to make sure that we do that. Be honest, I don't have that answer. So we're going to sit down and to form this subcommittee gives this ability to sit down with the people who carry these duties out to see what's going on. Sure. So,
I think based on what I read in our code, that if a thorough inspection is done, and that includes checking homeowner and the ownership of the property, whether the owner ever uses it or not, what purpose the owner has for that property. Because I don't think that's been done, because if it were, had been, the violations would be apparent. And you would know that you have a commercial use in a residential zone. I don't think the lawbreakers should be considered a stakeholder. They're there to make a profit, which is fine, but not in the residential zone. And I think that we have the legal codes, the legal tools to use to keep out that sort of activity. When it says, you also use the term traditional, and that's what people most used to think. Family comes down and they spend a week here, so no problems. But we've had problems before, and you are putting the city in an exposed position when you allow this to occur in a zone that is not suited for it. And I want to waste evidently, and I use the term advisedly because it's now April, the season will start shortly, and all these meetings, etc., going to put this year out of the consideration for making change. You've got tools to use. One is there, what appears to me, I think I have one such property on my block. It caused problems, and it's quieted down, but it's still obviously just like a motel. People own it, don't use it. It's a money-making proposition, pure and simple. And it's in the wrong area. Why have zones for different uses? Single family homes, business, share, combinations, whatever. But we've got these homes going up, and so it tells you when you look at it, we use for, we do not want that uses to be in this particular site. And I think if we have examinations and inspections all along, you wouldn't have these problems around. So I don't think that just putting together something is going to solve the problem. Especially like part of it too, is participants, some of them are the ones who are doing breaking the law, and they're getting away with it. Is that what you want to bring it to you? I don't think so. I don't. I mean, one on, and parking is a major problem. So build your parking in different,
Yeah, I took off the road.
thank you, okay. But anyway, frankly, I think you're getting to the wrong direction. Thank you.
thank you.
Louise Grover, 301 20th Street. My question is for the city solicitor. Is that person here tonight? Okay. My question is, how can a party be allowed to rent in a residential zone? It's simple enough, and as Ms. Phillips just said, let me read to you the New Jersey rental property licensing requirement A party structure that is used, maintained, marketed, promoted, and or advertised as a destination to rent, lease, or sublease for gathering of invited guests for functions and special events not limited to weddings, retreats, family reunions, parties, and meetings. A resort house is a commercial use appropriate only in commercial business zones. A resort house also can be only limited to 18 people. At 304 and 306 20th Street, it is advertised 23 and 24. Let me reiterate, advertised. That's not how many are in those houses. So you are definitely business there, sir, in my neighborhood. You are allowing people to come and drink and make money, as I pointed out at the last meeting, in a residential neighborhood. It is on the law. Somebody's breaking the law. And when you do meet, and this committee, been there, done that. We came up with 2012, 2013, met with a bunch of people from the city, met Mr. Bennett, I think he was Officer Bennett at the time, did the same exact thing, had a committee. We never heard from them again. So this is a ploy. This is, and all due respect, I don't go for it. And I also think anybody that is a realtor or in real estate in the city should recuse themselves from voting about this. Because the realtors have a whole different take on this situation. Thank you.
I get your first name.
Louise.
Louise, when you listen.
Grover.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's a couple of challenges. In 2014, that committee met, it was actually developed at OC Animal House Ordinance, which we actually have in place, that we have successfully used to shut down our process. So that committee did actually have a big impact and did help communities. A big part of that is go big.
When did you show down in Florida House?
There was one on 12th Street.
Oh, we never got the shooting and everything. We have shootings, we've got prostitutes, we've had filming and pornographic films also on the street. You did not clear.
One of the issues that we're bringing up though is if they're having problems there. One of the things that actually asked the city manager to run was police reports for the last year and a half on the properties you guys mentioned. There's 4. There's 1 noise violation and 3 parking violations. So when we talk about the letter of the law,
Because
all
we
of them,
they're complacent. The people on the street are tired of playing. It has been 11 years. They're tired of it. And this is what we have to deal with. We have been on that street for over 20 years. We've been on this island for almost 30 years. And this is what we have to put up with. It's not fair. I invite you to come. In fact, give me your phone numbers. I'll call you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when the concussion's going. I'm glad to call all of you and you see what's going on.
the best people to call would be the police. So here's what I want you to understand. We're not against, as much as you want to be angry at us, I recognize that you're angry with the last 11 years. I would not want to look that way. I think about it all the time. If this was my next door neighbor, if this was my community, if this is what my family was subjected to, I would not want to look at it. And that's why I started off with speaking with this. This is not us against you. This is all of us against the problem. But understand, laws, as Mr. Phillips said, you have to uphold laws. Laws work both ways. So when the property owner has, and it's over all properties, there's only 4 complaints that are filed. It's hard for the city to say this is property, although it is a nuisance for you. How we were able to shut down that property and get them in compliance is working with the community, working with the homeowners. People calling the police, people coming in and filing complaints against the property owner. And we were able to take that to court and take it before a judge. They shut them down the first time for 6 months. And where they stand right now by judge order is if there's any more significant violations, it is brought before the judge and the judge can take away the license. One of the reasons we use license, the short-term rental homes, is that when they become a nuisance, when we can take it before a judge with police complaints in hand, a judge can take away that license and shut them down. So what we're looking at is what is the evolution of what we need to do now? We have that tool, but for whatever reason, people feel that it's better to yell at us or call and email us than actually call the police, whose job it is to enforce that.
But Mr. Scott's great, is that our whole, or is it whole? Like,
I'm gonna defer that to the chief, because the complaint calls an actual complaint. That's a great question. So I'm gonna defer that to the chief.
Yeah, I mean, a call is a complaint, so, you know, it gets documented in our computer system, so like as far as 12th Street is concerned, those complaints piled up, you know, and then, like you said, you met with the homeowner, and the homeowner did adjust a little bit, and then it wasn't good enough, and then the homeowner definitely got some serious sanctions eventually, but yeah, as far as like a noise complaint, just call us, we'll come and document the noise, and then those complaints will add up.
And that's part of the reason that we are working with the representative of the police department is what is the plan we need to put in place to be accountable. Realize it's not accountable that dictates the laws, when it comes to enacting the law, it's the police department. So we want to make sure that we set up a plan and also work with the community. What is the best way to operate the records so that we can start to hold people accountable? We want to do what it is we want to do. We just have to do it. That's all.
There's also different issues that are being brought up, so, you know, sometimes when the code mentions enforcement, it's zoning enforcement. I don't want people to be confused that we're gonna come in and, you know, look for zoning violations. We don't do that. So if you see the word enforcement, it doesn't always mean, you know, and then there's different things that are being brought up. So obviously, loud music at 12 o'clock at night, that's us, you know, call us, we'll definitely document it. Again, we try to work with the community. So the first response is almost always, hey, we got a complaint, shut it down, take it in for the night, you know, and then it's you know, we come back and now it's 2 a.m. Now there's a local ordinance ticket we can write. That also gets documented. That's on file. Now you can go to if there's a case that ends up in front of a judge, hey, judge, every weekend there's a noise violation here. But there's a lot of different issues that are being brought up, you know, 18 people in a house. That's not something we're not going to go into a house illegally and start counting how many people are sleeping there. That's almost impossible to do. So there's a lot of different issues that are being brought up, but noise violations, absolutely, you know, and if there's trash, you know, we can come document trash and we can document certain things, but it kind of flows into different departments.
And if there's parking issues, people will also direct us to the police.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The key thing here is people have to call us. You can't drive around looking for these things that happen. So if it's happening in your neighborhood, I said it last month, call the police and document. Call the non-emergency number and document. That's the only way that we can take any kind of action. I mean, we had a situation on 20th Street last week where the owner had rented the place as a women's symposium. Now, they didn't personally rent it, but they rented it to a person who was creating that. We went to our city attorney. They filed a cease and desist letter to him, and the guy called back and said, oh, well, it's just my wife and 6 of her girlfriends getting together for lunch, which was a complete lie. But now where do we go from there? What legal ramifications do we have to go after this person? Now, this person owns 25 houses in this island. Do you think he's staying there? Do you think he's living in any one of them? Okay, he bought them to rent them, and to rent them any way he could.
So then,
It's because it's just coming to a head with this type of thing. The noise ordinance, that's been going on for years. And like I say, that we can take care of, but you just notifying the police and let's build a record so that we can bring that owner to court and say, listen, you're going to pay a fine for this because this continues to happen. What happened on 13th Street, the man installed cameras and sound decibel meters, and he can monitor it when it gets noisy, and he curtails it. He sends a security guard there to quiet things down. Okay, that's how we control that. And that's the way we'll control other things, but we have to know about it. We can't just drive around and say, oh, is it quiet in this house tonight? Is it quiet in that house? That's not going to happen. We have to rely on you to be our eyes and ears.
Solicitor, here's my question. How can the house be allowed when it's against the law? How can?
Again, I think the chief actually addressed that for you. It's not something that they don't have the ability.
If you read the ordinance, there are 3 houses, 2 across the street from the Brigantine, 305 20th Street. They rent them and they list them as 22 and 23 people. That's the owner, Brian, on those list. They have a house on 19th Street on the corner. That house is listed as 20. That is 20, 22. Those are all applied. They violate the town ordinance. The definition, the town ordinance is a law. So if just deal with that, just deal with it. It's marketed that way.
Jim, if you don't mind,
It's there.
if you can come up and speak in microphone, only because one of the public records who the people at home.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so sorry, sorry. Jim, you like,
305 20th Street.
I just want to say that, I wanted you to repeat that because I think it's really.
Okay, so the resort home ordinance, which is a law, already researched that, the law. There are 3 houses. 304, 306, and I'm gonna get 1900, it's on the northeast corner of Ocean. The government's house that he sold. All 3 of those houses are owned by one individual. The 2 across the street from us are marketed, rented by its owner and 2 other. The 22 and 23 people, and oh, by the way, if you want, you can combine them. It's written in his bio. And then on 20, on Ocean 19, that's marketed as 20. 22, sorry. So all 3 of those houses are marketed that way and violate the resort home ordinance. So I don't know what to wait for. There's no reason to have a meeting. I got that Andrea called when they had parked on 400 block on her street. Those cars were there for both Saturday and Sunday. She called the police. They didn't get ticketed, so there's hundreds of dollars. One ticket, in the queue, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I get that you need to do things and this is happening and we're telling you it's happening because we see it and we know where we live. All of us. We don't know what's happening elsewhere. If we did, we would report. I agree. You guys can't get on the road and drive around. We're not expecting that, but this is a viable issue. It needs to be addressed like immediately. You want to talk about 2-day rental, 3, I get all that, it's still time. And I think that hiring someone may be good. Maybe these bigger animal house type houses, maybe it should be a prorated, the rental agreement should be prorated. You know, the bigger the house, the more you charge.
They do that.
They're making more money, and why shouldn't you make more money? So I think that that's really the core. You want to have a meeting and what do you need in the ordinance? Great. We met today. Thank you. I'd love to be part of some of these, not all of these subcommittees that have a voice, and I'm sure there's other people. But it's festering, okay? And it's going to be continue to fester because all I see is big houses being built. And big houses being built. So, thank you.
And Jim, this is not a given, but I know I discussed this with you. When we're looking at the E360 code and when you see the resort house under the definitions, I just think, I'm not saying this is happening, this needs to be done, but I think it needs to be looked at. It might be the potential maybe to fine tune maybe something within our ordinances that would apply to these resort houses. Because as much as it might just be better to find maybe join the foot
But retuning, we're refining, allowing buildings that have been deemed to be in commercial zones, would then be allowed in residential zones, and then you open
I'm
up
speaking-
Pandora's box.
I'm speaking to the opposite.
I think that you've got to look at this, because again, people get in financial trouble, all of a sudden they've got this big house. It's smart for them to rent it. They walk away, they hire people. I see it across the street nonstop. Furniture's coming and going, they got housekeepers coming and going, they got, pest control. It's running like a commercial building across the street. And that's gonna continue, and you're gonna see more and more of those as Brigantine becomes more popular. We love it here, that's why we're here.
Jim, can you make sure city manager has those addresses and has that, because I would like to inspect it. I just wanted to make sure you had it.
For this plan,
Yeah.
300.
And then, Ryan, you have, our security is that people are advertising late.
I just want to say one thing about the protocols and complaints. I know for a fact, Bob, myself, police, Wackerman, I don't know who else, I know my friends down in 300 block, there's been multiple calls. And I did pull over to the zoning office. I can't think of her name. Is it Laura?
Yeah, Barb.
Okay. She said the problem is where most of this takes place on the weekends, there's no one in the zoning office to take the phone call. And she said we have to call the non-emergency number of the police department, or lodge a complaint. And then those who are complaining have to go to where they go on Monday to file a complaint in person and sign documentation. A lot of people are, some of the people are not doing to man the government makes the weekend to take a viable complaint. And as far as complaints about citations and all, they're in laws. And like I said, in the 3 years that I've been over for citations from Bay to Beach on 20th Street, once we move this issue, in spite of the multiple phone calls, and you can probably go back and listen to this dispatcher about the parking issue, and the only thing they gave, whoops, was Bob. Was Bob's handicap, I'm gonna run.
So that,
So that's what fired me up. So
the parking tickets were brought up several times tonight, and there is some inaccurate information that I have to address. The one weekend, there was 5 parking tickets issued, well, the day of the wedding. So the first,
that's what set me in motion.
so the first weekend that kind of set you in motion, as you say, was the weekend where we addressed the house, and we contacted the people staying in the house, and I explained this before. We don't just start slapping tickets on windows. We try to work with the visitors, and if we can go up to the house, as I explained before, if I'm in Virginia Beach with my family, I would appreciate it. I would thank the cop if he said, "Hey, could you just move your car in Virginia Beach? It's illegal to park there." And that's what we did the first weekend. And they moved their cars. So it was an issue because, like the mayor says, there's 2 sides of the issue. So some people were unhappy that we didn't write the tickets. So then the following weekend was the wedding. We wrote about 6 tickets down there. And, my guys have discretion, and that weekend they decided to write some tickets. There was a wedding. We wrote about 4 tickets to Brigantine residents, someone on Lafayette who's been here 30 years. They were not very happy with us. So we're not in the business of making people happy, because we do one thing, this side's not going to be happy. So a lot of Brigantine lifelong residents got ticketed that day. They were attending the wedding. They weren't very happy. So the one weekend we lost, the next weekend we lost too. We're used to that, but I'm just addressing the fact that you guys are talking to each other saying no tickets were written. Tickets were written.
Well, no,
And sometimes we'll write them, sometimes we won't.
My fear chief was suspended the first since to the president's weekend. That was the over I put in for, and that's the only one to think it was the one was issue. After that, because I guess I picked up some, fuss, then I guess, that the radar, we've been tuning into some of this parking stuff. But I just want to know, just let you know that the fact that you have to, there's nobody in the end on the weekend, where all 90% of this craziness happens on the weekends, Friday to Sunday. There's no one to take a complaint, then we have to bother the non-emergency police, you know, dispatcher or whatever, do this kind of stuff. And then you have to deal with the person on Monday morning, and they sign some documentation of the complaint. It gets to be, for some people, it's just intimidating.
Andrew, may I just, in regards to what you said about people, folks being intimidated, I believe the chief tried delineating that before, they could at least, and I understand what you're saying, obviously, about people like feel, in a local position there, or a slight bit of intimidation, whatever the case might be. But as long as that they can at least get the complaint documented, do an operation report, whatever the case might be, and add things to the situation. You spoke of this just before.
I think what she meant by the intimidation is some people don't want to come in and file a formal complaint in writing, which you don't really have to do if you don't want to. I mean, you can be anonymous, call us with certain complaints, but like I said before, we're touching on a lot of different issues, which is kind of where the committee comes in. I know.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, like
Leave
the,
it up to the committee. You make your complaints, we'll ask the police department, did you get complaints? Then we'll act on that.
well, and yeah, and we'll address certain complaints, but there's a lot of things being brought up, like the resort house. That's a whole different sub issue. You know, if someone's advertising something, then zoning and rental can look into that part of that complaint, but there's a lot of different complaints. You know, there was a complaint about not being able to Airbnb in a commercial district, or it has to be in a commercial district. Well, that's not really the way Airbnb works. I have a Cape Cod right around the corner from me. It's not in it's in a residential. There's thousands of them on the island. They're all in residential neighborhoods. Now, Ms. Phillips, I don't know, you might have not clarified it. I don't know if you were talking about resort houses being in the commercial district or all VRBOs and Airbnbs. There's a lot of different classifications that people need to know. I can Airbnb my house tomorrow in a residential neighborhood, you know, so, and there's thousands of them. We're at them all over the place in you know, in a certain weekend. You know, there might be one on Sheridan, they're all over the place. So there's different issues that are being brought up that kind of have to be subdivided to different, you know, different departments.
And Chief, the only thing I just wanted to point out.
You can't keep all the VRBOs in a commercial. That's, I don't know if that's what you meant.
Just getting back to our original.
Party houses.
Yeah, getting back to our original topic, I just want to point out that there really is no need to feel that intimidation factor. As long as you just call in non-emergency number, or if it's something really ugly, obviously you need to call the emergency number, and there's a fist fight going on outside. You know, do what you gotta do there, obviously, but at least the police can get there and just do a CAD entry, whatever the case might be, just document what is actually going on. There is no real true need that they have to come in and physically sign
It never shows up to the rental office unless you do.
That's not true.
The complaint never goes against the property.
Hey, it's documented, that's all I'm saying. The point is, it's documented.
So here's, I just want to come back. I want to go back to my original statement.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back to my original statement. It is not us against each other. It is us against the problem. But I want to go back to that because I think it's important to come back to it. You have 11 years of frustration with men. And listen, you can yell at us all day long, I'm okay with it. But I want to come back to the point. We want to stop this issue. We want to work on it. Doing things that come back to it is if we have to take property over before the judge, right? Because we have to do it. I will tell you, having written signed complaints holds way more weight than anonymous phone calls. I know the chief will take anonymous phone calls, they'll respond. I will tell you, if we go before a judge, having real people sign complaints holds weight. Whether you choose to do that or not is fine, but those are the realities of where we are. Part of the reason we're getting together is some of the issues are police issues, some of the issues are also zoning. As we've heard from people here today, when you have zoning complaints, maybe the zoning office, the rental office isn't hearing them. And a good example of that is one of our rental inspectors happened to be in the city manager's office. Someone in your neighborhood came in and talked about the issue. And I think it was very eye-opening for that individual employee to hear the situation from your perspective. It makes it real. Understand, you talk to us, we see your emails, we hear what you're saying, we can feel the frustration of many. We also need people who carry out the day to day to understand it from your perspective, so they can work to start to address that. Because whatever's been happening, whatever's been going on, hasn't worked for you. So now we are working to move us in a better direction. We have some tools in place, and that's why I said it's important to say, look, where are we? If we have these tools in place, they're not being used, why? Are there barriers? Are there things that we have to do to make things better? Are there resources we need? And I think it was Jim Coya who came up with the idea that I talked about earlier, that maybe we do need somebody more full-time specifically for that issue. And that came directly from what we heard here at council. As we also heard here at the meeting, you guys are know the issues in your neighborhood. What about all the people who don't know that this is going on and don't have the courage to come forward? What if they have an opportunity to sit in a small group and talk with us? How much more will we learn? How much better will we do with the rest of this? So we're not delaying. We're doing two things. One, what are the immediate issues we can address, which is why we need an internal. Two, what are the long-term issues we need to address so we do it correctly? Because as we heard in 2014, what we put in place helped. It didn't work for the community we were trying to help. Didn't really know that until people started blanking, sent us emails to come to this meeting. And so I started taking a look at what other communities are doing. That's where we are. I'm sorry.
Can I just say one thing? I want to let you know also that, yes, we have a committee right now, a subcommittee, but this is a problem we're all talking about. We agree with you. We want to help the situation. We went through the other problem up there on the north end and took care of it. And we're going to get it resolved. I can guarantee that. Vince has called me up, excited and saying he wants to have the best roads and he wants to write and he wants to work. We've been together, gotten together, talking about things, and if we were out and had people come up to us that overheard us say, oh, well, listen, I'd like to put my 2 cents in. So there are people, we want to talk about it. We want to get it right. Unfortunately, it's going to take time. One of the big things is enforcement also. We've been discussing, and we have a plan in place to raise the money to hire other people that will be around for enforcement. We're getting the numbers from the rental, VRBOs and the short-term rentals. We know the amount of money that people are making from rentals on this island and what's going on in other communities, whether it's local tax collections off of those rentals, but we are talking about issues that are going to make it better. Unfortunately, it's not as soon as we don't like it to be, but I just wanted you to know that we're all talking about it, we're all concerned about it, we want to make it right.
Bob, give me 1 second, Bob. I don't want to, I don't want to stand there. I don't think it's, I'm Bob, go with me. Don't stand. Listen, just wanted to address one thing. You brought up, anonymous complaints. That's not what I was referring to. That's a totally different animal. When you have to have somebody, we're talking about names, it holds next to no water, as Chief would know. Just further substantiate any written complaints, is what I was saying, for the people just to call up, give your name, just say, hey, this is what's going on. At least it's documented. That was my only point. An anonymous complaint, really not gonna help us over time.
I have people write complaints. You filed a cease and desist, but you didn't hold it. You didn't go and make them leave.
There's a point where, yeah, believe me, there's a stand being made on it. It's just like, it's just like any other battle that you have. You just have to have your game plan going. And so, yeah, we're aware fully of what happens. There's a big little shell game, charade here going on, it appears to be. So I duly noted what you said at the same time.
Time's up, you called me John.
Yeah. Not 10 minutes.
Robert Gordon, 2000. On the 12 o'clock news, they were having meetings in the city of Philadelphia about the same issue. Can you imagine that dysfunctional group up there are able maybe to clear up a situation? And we're really behind them, please. I'm not even being lies. I heard that. He said, thank you. No,
I don't think you.
I know, I like to hear a lot more, most people is, all people is. The old.
You're working with 5 years.
Anything with the parking sign for the disabled parking sign?
Oh,
Good.
I think John was.
yeah, sure can.
We received an email today, with for the plaque for the, handicap parking. And we're gonna work on that. Yes, and I'll talk to Bob and you guys. It's good, the investigation is gonna go through the police department for the one that we talked about at last meeting for his house.
Thank you.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Always great seeing you.
I'd just like to say a couple other things. You know, there's housing discrimination laws also. Okay, there's housing discrimination laws. So when someone comes to buy, purchase a house, a realtor can't ask them, oh, what are you using it for? Or what your purpose, what your intent is. Say that again.
But I'll wait until.
Okay, so there's housing discrimination laws, okay? That come into play in the sale of houses, okay, the rental houses. Next, I told you, we are talking with other communities involved. And I can tell you that other shore communities and other communities too that have tourism, tourists coming into them, they have the opposite problem. They have safe houses that come in the middle of communities that are legally rented out, yearly rentals, but they're to recovering addicts, recovering alcoholics. And now you have people like that sitting in the middle of your neighborhood, sitting outside with no management, no control, and loads of complaints about that. I don't think we have any problems with that right now. But those places that are rented out for safe houses, they get reimbursed by insurance because if they're in recovery, they get reimbursed by insurance companies up to $900 a night. $900 a night. So we have to, you know, there's a lot to it that we have to look at. I'm sure there's nobody here that wants a safe house in the middle of the neighborhood also, on 20. But it's just, there's just.
Right now, I think you want to. You know, before they trying to do there.
We could have, I agree with that, Bob, but it seems that where they are located,
They're not here.
the communities know, the people in the neighborhood know, and they're not happy with that also.
Real quick, 2 seconds. I got President Nixon's face over Section 8 housing. He's one signing. And you people are, all of us, not other people, we have to understand what can be done by the federal government out of your hands. And I understand you. So I'm on your side, but I live here. I live here. Yeah, I'm only, what,
Longer than any.
I'm only. Thank you, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, George Grover, 301 20th Street. Some of you know me, Paul, was the 20th Street, because we've been dealing with the city for quite some time, and then Summer was the mayor, and Mr. Bennett was the police chief, which eventually realized again as the manager of the city. And we discussed the problems that they're having 12 or 14 years ago. And it was at that time that there were 2 violations at one property that that individual loses his rent privileges. Now, I know there's been more calls made, there's 302, 304, and yet the city has not enforced that agreement. And to say that this committee is being put together, it's hard for us because having discussions with Mayor Gunther, Mr. Bennett, when he was sitting there, and then when he was over on that side, nothing ever occurred. Even during COVID, when nothing was really happening around here, and I went in to Mr. Bennett and asked him, did you go through the ordinance? You're gonna rewrite it, you're gonna call us up, Jim and myself, to discuss improving the ordinance. Never got the phone call. Well, what about the occupancy certificates on doors for all these properties? And I believe that's never been done, is that correct?
I will tell you, none of that was ever released.
Okay, is that-
Because he didn't work on that. I believe
Yeah,
you guys
he was sitting over here and he was sitting over there.
never released.
That's the problem that we have, and that's why hearing this committee start and it's only there and no one from here and having little subcommittees, that's not fair. We're the ones that are experiencing the problems. And I know there's a real involved on this board, and I agree, should not.
There's some really wrong. Dude, but actually, let me recuse yourself.
Oh, you did, thank you.
It's not on.
Well, that all that being said, let me just say, don't point fingers at realtors in the fact that I raised 2 kids on the island and pay my taxes, and I have Airbnbs in my neighborhood as well, and I want to resolve the problem. You know,
I'm talking about realtors that are also getting commission for having rentals to some of these animals.
Right.
And that would be my concern, to have an individual like that on the committee.
Right.
So there's.
Don't you agree?
I agree on
That's all first, I'm not taking it personal.
There's no real on commission.
Okay.
So like we bet, so I think, now we'll go back to the school teacher, what we say, and what we hear, what's the difference, I think this is a good point of clarification. The committee does not exist with realtors. What we're doing is, our committee is our 3 council members, police, code enforcement, and rentals and inspections. That is our committee. Now, from there, what we're going to be doing is meeting in small groups with different people in the community, kind of like we're doing here. What are the specific concerns? What are the specific resolutions you want to see? Because I think it's important for that committee to hear from the public and from all aspects of it. Some of our realtors have actually come up with some good ideas of what we can do in the city to kind of put an end to some of the nuisance houses. Like we talked here, like what I was very surprised about from the realtors, you know, one of the things we had looked at is, you know, maybe banning one night rentals. So the realtors said that maybe you should use 3 or 4. Now, that was surprising. I didn't expect realtors to say that. But what they look at is they live in this community too. The ones who live in this community too want to see the community succeed. And they want to make sure, so if you can get help and support from the realtors to do something stronger, wouldn't that help everyone? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, as much as you think it's like one group against another.
Mayor, I agree with the committee. But I'm looking at my watch. And I'm afraid that this is gonna go on past Memorial Day weekend. And you're gonna not allow, but this is gonna continue, and it shouldn't be. There should be a deadline. In the next 30 days, the committee will resolve it, enforce it, notify us that you are aware. It might be, I'll call them, I don't know how to set on record, how many are there?
But do you know what the fines now?
Pardon? Sorry, what's,
But I would say that, like where the city manager, the big city manager, like I said, wants to have 2 complaints.
Yes.
I don't know that that's legally true, because when we took it before a judge, we had to have a number of serious complaints to show that the house was actually a nuisance. So, and what the manager might have said and what the city is legally allowed to do, I don't know that those are the same things, and I only know this through going through the experience with the homes and the homeowners in Small Street. And I know that it took us a while to get it before the judge. I knew we had to have a significant number of complaints to show that it's true nuisance. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, so there's two aspects, right? Because you want to finish that on it, and I got it. But that's why there's two aspects of this. What do we have in place now that we can enforce better? What do we need long term to address this issue? Because it is much bigger than something we're going to pass by Memorial Day weekend. That's why there's two aspects of this. What can be addressed now to address better, to try to make all of your lives better? And what can we also start to do to address long term, what we need to do it forever in this situation?
When you,
That's when you have to ordinance.
does that have to be approved by a judge?
So there's two sides of this, right? So I know where you're going with this. Oftentimes when municipalities fail, the state has things they then can't enforce, whether it's legally or they don't have the resources to enforce it. So that's why we need to sit down internally and do an assessment of, hey, listen, we have all these ordinances on the book, what's going on? That's part of what we're trying to do. None of us up here have, well, you might still have, none of us up here have police powers, maybe two retired, law enforcement officers. What we need to do is make sure that our police, our code enforcement, our inspectors, all the people who have to do this, have the tools and resources they need to properly address this. So that's what we have to find out. If you're saying, look, there's ordinances that are on the books now that we're not doing to the best of our ability. So now you come to us as elected officials, and we're going to go to the people who do that and say, listen, here's what we're hearing. What's going on? And they're going to tell us in an open, honest way that, hey, here's our challenges, this is what we need. And then we need to make sure as elected officials that we give them those resources they need. And that's the process we're going through.
You know, one thing, see, and you didn't enforce it, you know, and you felt, the city felt them again.
But the city didn't.
They did fall.
It was a season, and you allowed them to continue to have that function. To me, that's wrong.
So there,
Any other taxpayer, once you know, you did not see your job.
we spent 11 funds in season desist. You send that out. You got information back that they weren't doing it. Now, we found out after the fact, they violated the system.
No, excuse me, sir.
During or after, doesn't matter, for the point of my conversation. The process then is to take it to superior court. Okay, that doesn't happen in the same night. So they can still violate the system. Just the gentleman said, like, suppose, you know, they're advertising for 22 or 24 people. Well, they could change that and just, now they're advertising for 18 people. They can still stick 25, 30, 40 people in place. It's still an enforcement problem. So the committee has to figure out how this enforcement is going to come about, because you can have all the ordinances and rules and regulations on the books. One, if you don't have the ability to enforce them then and now, it's not going to solve the residents' problem. So this committee really does need to flush that position. And I think the conversations that they're having are phenomenal. And to continue to have those small group conversations really makes sense. Because you need that input from the different stakeholders. You know, all the stakeholders aren't going to have the same ideas, but putting all those ideas together will help flush it out. I do see this problem in a lot of things. And your island is different than some of the other communities that are represented throughout the state. So I can't sit here and say, well, here's the ordinance that gives some other town, it's going to work perfect. It's not going to work for you. It's going to work with them, maybe. So I applaud what you're doing here tonight, fleshing out some ideas. But to say, well, there's a secret, how can you didn't enforce it? It's a misinterpretation of how the law works. I just want to make sure everybody understands that now.
I think I said that a lot better than I said.
Okay.
Thank you. You earned your salary.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier, council, just we might need some fine tuning, at least at minimum, to look at everything. And just make sure everything's just on the problem.
The point of that was to keep it, prevent it from happening. But if the man's gonna lie and still do it anyway, now we have to come up with some sort of punishment or some sort of sanctions against this individual.
Well, why was the guy who plays for me? So, I mean, this not gonna make any. Any proper movement that your students are there not complete. You didn't think about a background, you didn't know what the harm.
So as you heard, listen to the next step, you take it before a judge, here's what I learned. About judges and courts, what we don't prove up to this text. Outside of us sending a letter that responding that the event is happening. How do you prove the visitors took money to hold that event?
It was advertised.
They said that advertisement was incorrect, it was lunch. How do you prove it? So now we take it to court, we try to hold them and they sue this being damages because we can't prove that they took money. So, chief, could we have gotten an order from a judge for you to go in that home and the fact that they got the money?
No, I think,
So now, here's the next part of it. So we have this two letters now, one from our inspector, one from our attorney. When we start to use that to build a case, now it's like, hey, look, how many times do they make the same thing? It becomes a preponderance of the evidence. But also, if you have that backed up with real site complaints, if people in the neighborhood came and said, look, we believe this happened, we're signing complaints, we're doing this, and we build the case, now all of us together can go after the homeowner. But what we keep coming back to is that as much as people want to be mad at us and tell us what to do, we have tools in place right now to address it. But people don't seem to want to sign those complaints. People don't seem to want to help support us so we can support you. So what we're doing now is we're looking at the direction with the committee. We're looking at what we can do. But the reality is, if people went in and signed complaints, we have this, and we can build a case, now we can take that person before the judge. I don't know about you, but I don't have the evidence.
Every time I make a phone call or a complaint, I ask for the officer to come to my house and get my name so I can see the complaint, and it's never happened.
So, chief,
Every time I call down there for a complaint, never get back again. I still have to go down there on Monday. And take a long time to figure out if it was registered, because there's always been discrepancy. Who's responsible for this? The police department or the fire department?
Right, so it depends.
So
if it's
it
a
goes
police
back-
issue or a code issue.
And I'm running back and forth between the two officers trying to figure out, where it's supposed to be.
And that's where we need to make sure that we have a solid plan that helps, we can make that where we need to go, because we shouldn't have to wait this time running back and forth.
Right.
I agree. I agree with 100%.
One more thing about you.
Time's up.
This is like, this is a new one out from that individual that had that special affair and she's advertising it. And the last word is hush from the public box.
In the meantime, I'd just like to say something else real quick. As far as the committee, the two most qualified people here on council, between Councilman Lettieri, who lived across the street from the worst animal house in the history of Brigantine and dealt with it, and Councilman Haney, as a retired state trooper who lives right there in the neighborhood. You really couldn't get two better people on the committee. And I want to say one more thing too. All of you know where to find my number. You can call me, and I mean this. You can call me if you want to meet me at any time of the night, any day of the week, and I will come out and I will meet you and witness it personally. And then if you want to go down on Monday morning, I'll meet you in City Hall and take you into the police to file that complaint also. We want to get it resolved, and that's my commitment to you.
You could be. When you be one of the days that it's put together.
So, we're probably going to be meeting after spring break, so we have the police holiday this week, our first meeting is going to be in Carmel after that. We're setting that up, we're trying to juggle this around, and we're also in the process of hiring new managers. We'll also be setting up meetings for that. We have to set our meetings to, we have another committee to review managers to get that position filled. So we will be meeting after that internally, but if you're asking for a specific date, when we're going to introduce the ordinances, we do not have that date. which is why I told you there are two aspects to this. One, what we enforce that we have in place now. Two, what we use to address long term. So that's where we are. We'll make sure that we put out publicly, when we're reading what's going on, what we're finding, we will make sure that we keep the public in the loop of what happens. And I understand the preparation, it seems to me, and I didn't know this is the third time city council has come up with, we're going to form a committee. I will tell you, this is only my, 2.5 years being there. I wasn't part of all this. But I can tell you, I'm a part of this now, and we are committed to stopping this issue. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. That's.
Before an owner can have a rent his house, whatever it is. It has to be a license from the municipality. Now, what does the license legally require of the owner and of the city? In other words, isn't there something that the owner has to say, I will abide by the laws, for instance, this property is in a residential zone, and I will not use it for commercial purposes. Isn't there something that they have, the owner has to agree to before the city will issue a license?
I'll be honest with those, I haven't read the document form, so I don't know off the top of my head, but I would imagine that anyone in the town, if you're here, you're gonna abide by the city laws. Part of the reason we license that is that if there are issues, and we can show that it's a nuisance property, we can take away the license, which takes away their ability to rent. How it was before that, we could give somebody, I don't know, $250 fine to $1,000. People who were renting a home for 15 grand for the weekend, all they did was rent it for 15 grand for the weekend. Which is why we put the license in place, because once we rewrote the license, we had the ability to stop them.
That's right, that's what you're saying, we can revoke that license.
But in order to revoke the license, we need evidence that is a nuisance. We need people from the public to file complaints. We need evidence to take to court, otherwise, you got nothing. Like I said, for the last year and a half, there was 4 complaints against a number of those properties, 3 parking issues, and 1 noise violation. Taking that before a judge, we can't prove that it's if that is things are for the community, that's not what the evidence shows.
Okay, but in the code, there is a definition of a resort house. Quite a specific one. And that person signs and says, agrees to that requirement and agrees that this is not a commercial function in terms of, our resort house, then certainly you have grounds for revoking that license. And the evidence is, has been presented, you've heard it, and it is available. People can use their eyes and ears and see. So I think this way.
In purposes, we need complaints, we need code enforcement complaints.
But are you using the license power? For instance, if
In
they,
order to revoke the license,
yes,
say for a judge and have signed complaints. So I get what you're getting at. But what goes on here helps us shape decisions we make to help our officials. But it's not visible in court.
okay, I understand what you're saying. However, I would appreciate if you look at the license, see exactly where it says. Does it use any definitions that are in the code? I will not violate the words in the code. I will know that this is a residential zone, I will not be using it for these, and other functions that apply to, a resort house. I should think that the license would have that language in it and gives you greater power, be able to revoke and take it where it has to go in the court. But certainly, if you issue the license, you can revoke it. I don't know if you're using that power, because you have one power fine, we give out the license, but you don't seem to want to use the power to revoke it. And out of which I think we should look at the language in the license itself, because they need to be aware that you are aware of what's going on, and we will not tolerate certain things.
That's something you can definitely look at, is look at the language of the licensing and what we can do in that aspect. I also think a big part of this is education. Believe it or not, there is a number of property owners who actually don't even live in the state, and they have property managers. And the information they're getting by their property managers about what permissible uses are is actually wrong. So I think one of the things we have to look at too, and I've heard this from other resort communities, is that they also require the property managers to be licensed. So if you have a property manager who is not abiding by the laws, you revoke the license of the property manager. The goal would then be to have people go with people who are licensed within a municipality who are doing it right. So those are the things that we're looking at.
Okay, well,
But
you
we also have to make sure that that's something that we can enforce. I know they enforce that in other states, but one of the things we have to look at is what the state of New Jersey allows individual municipalities to do when it comes to that type of license, which is why the committee is getting together. That very issue you brought up is something we want to see if we're able to do, because I think you can also hold those property managers accountable who just collect money and never get hit with any fines, because fines go to the homeowner.
well, I think we do have a strength that perhaps you're not using, information that you and impart to the people who are involved in this, and you've got more tools that perhaps you're aware of, and that something needs to be done. It needs to be done as quickly as possible, because we value the property that we have in a single family zone. And it makes no sense, and people are getting away, and I think the word accountable is really something. The people who should be accountable aren't, and need to be reminded of that. Thank you.
Thank you. A big part of these discussions, this is for everybody, a big part of these discussions is being through your eyes. So many things that we thought about, so many things we started to go into them on spirit out. That's what we get. No, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eileen Frost, with 304 19th Street South. So I just have a couple questions. Trying to absorb a lot of the information here. To your lovely point about the license, is that license application online? Like, can we get in to look at it and review?
There's a registration form online, but the actual license itself is you'd have to, if you go on Google E360, Brigantine, you'll get all the ordinances online on Brigantine.
Okay, yeah.
But the original application is online on the city website, the actual writing of it is on that other location, E360 Brigantine, you can find out.
A license, excuse me.
Do a search on.
No, I'm not going to do a search. It was saying that when I do that search, I'll be able to review, excuse me, what requirements have to be met or questions answered in order to get the license.
So when you go on E360 Brigantine, it'll bring up our ordinances and our code.
That's me.
And in that location there, you can do another search then and put in whatever you want, rental license, whatever it is you want to look for, you can get pull it right up.
Oh. My other question is, because I'm sorry, I'm new to these meetings. You're the mayor. Using the word nuisance, so I want to understand something. There is an ordinance, which is a law that is passed by a local county board or local council. If the ordinance, if the law is being violated, as it seems to be with some of these homes that are listing their properties to rent for more than 18 to get that magic number threshold, otherwise it's a resort town.
it sounds like you're saying we have to go before a judge, but we really don't have to go before a judge if these folks are violating the law.
So
Do we have to go, do we have to say? Nuisance?
to revoke their license.
Yeah.
Under the law, we have to show that it's use property to revoke the license. Now, here's the county.
Violating the law with regards to renting to. When you, so you can have 22 violent people that aren't a nuisance, and that's okay in a residential area.
So that's not what we're saying. So here's the.
It's just like you're saying. It sounds like
It's
you're.
not
it's
really what,
Or.
there's two issues. This is when property party have created a problem in the neighborhoods. If you're just talking about people in a home, say somebody rents a home, they're allowed to have 10 people there. 10 people come.
Yeah, I don't.
Anybody 20 difference. Are we legally allowed to take them out of their house?
So there's two different issues. We've talked about a lot of different prongs. There's a lot of different prongs to this. Each person brings up a different thing, but nuisance, the two separate issues to your question. To answer your question, yes, you can enforce the ordinance if it talks about occupancy aside from nuisance. Nuisance would be more my department. So nuisance would be like if there's a DJ with huge speakers and it only has to be a nuisance if the neighborhood cares. Sometimes we go and the whole neighborhood's there. And if it's 8 o'clock at night, it's not a nuisance. Now, obviously, there's a misconception that the nuisance has to be past a certain time. You can be a nuisance at 9 o'clock at night, you know, if it's deemed a nuisance, but the issue you're talking about is occupancy. Now, again, it's not my department, but I don't know how to conceptualize that being enforced. The occupancy that you speak of is a sleeping occupancy. How many people can sleep in that residence? So if someone comes up and tells me 24 people slept in there last night, first of all, how'd you know that? Second of all, how am I going to enforce it? And it wouldn't be me anyway, it'd be zoning, but how is zoning going to prove that there was 30 people sleeping on the floors in that residence? And I would like to hear the answer because I can't conceptualize that, how that's going to be proven and enforced. Just to answer that question, even though it's not my department. Same things to be said with special functions. There was a big complaint about a wedding, and I want us to take away from this meeting all the different directions that you may have to go as a resident with your complaint. So like a very good complaint would be if you get the advertisement and it's, hey, we're going to charge $100 a person and we're going to have this huge event at the house. Very legitimate complaint. That can now be taken to someone within the city. Hey, just so you know, then we can start having conversations, which they did before. Code enforcement and rentals can start having conversations with the owner and say, hey, listen, the people you're renting to are now having commercial, again, as the mayor talked about before, oh, well, they were charging. Well, someone talked to them and said, well, you can't charge. So how do we know they didn't change and say, hey, listen, we can't charge anymore, but we're still going to have the event? Again, it's really hard to enforce and prove that, 30 people paid $20 for a candle making event. Now that's violating mercantile. So that the charge there would be you're operating a mercantile operation without a mercantile license. So I just want us to be aware of all the different prongs. The wedding, for example, wedding wasn't against the law. The wedding, you can have a wedding at a house. That wasn't against the law. That was, there was a lot of people there. They spent thousands of dollars at a local restaurant to cater that. So that's kind of but that's only one little issue, right?
Oh, yeah, and you're trying to go through all this.
Yeah, so it goes all this way. So I think the takeaway from the meeting is each resident might have a different complaint, and let's direct it to where it needs to go. Like one resident might have a flyer. That doesn't come to me. That'll go to rental rep. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. The weather's getting nice. If there's a DJ blasting music, If you want to be anonymous, please call us. Don't worry about anonymous, non-anonymous. Let's start documenting a particular house. Because as the mayor said, right now, when I search that area for 17 months, no complaints come up. It's the 3 parking complaints and 1 noise complaint from October. So yeah, an anonymous music complaint has a little bit of teeth to it, but it's still something. And so if you complain about a large DJ on a deck, we come out, hey, listen, man, shut down the music, everyone inside. A lot of people comply with that and we're good with that. Now, my officer might come back at 3 in the morning and get really aggravated. They're still blasting that music. He goes up, he writes a local ordinance for music, and now that's at least on file, and it starts to add up. And the most meat of it is probably to address the homeowner. Because as we've talked about before, every weekend is different. I think someone mentioned it tonight. You might have a 15-person family that'll rent out a house. I've seen it in my neighborhood. Some weekends, they're fine. Other weekends, it's totally different people, and they're not fine. So, you know, there's a lot of different issues. So if there's a takeaway from it, by all means, call us for nuisance type stuff. Yeah, you know, and again, some weekends, loud music wasn't the issue. So we'll direct it in the way that it needs to be directed. There's a lot of different things that were brought up.
Yeah, well, just getting back to my original question, which I think I got the answer from the mayor, that if someone breaches the law, they violate this occupancy law, maybe that's what it is that the ordinance speaks to. If they simply violate that, does one have to attach to that, that it's a nuisance and have to go before a judge? It seems to me that if you have a law, I shouldn't have to make up that there's a nuisance for a judge.
Maybe the easiest way to explain this is TV show Law and Order and the criminal justice system. Maybe the easiest way to explain this is the TV show Law and Order. They always start at the beginning, something like this. In the criminal justice system, there are 2 equal but separate portions. So you have to have the police to come out and break the violation, or the zoning code to break the violation, and then it has to be processed through the system. And so,
Question my apology.
Everything's got to go before the judge. Everything's got to go before the judge.
So
Everything is got to go.
attached to it that it's a nuisance.
no, it's not.
So everything is in front of the judge.
Well,
Can I try to answer? No, I'm gonna try to answer it. I already answered it.
The ordinance, which is a law, that law is already in place.
Yes, it can be enforced.
If somebody advertises for 22
not a violation of law, but advertise for 22.
and 22 people stay there,
If we
and they
advertise,
rent to
it's not
22
take that as a
people.
violation.
So-
But I just feel like there's already a law in place, and if somebody advertises for 22, they can rent for 22. One might assume that they're gonna rent for 22, and if they rent for 22, does that violate your ordinance, your law that's already in place? I don't
I think the judge determines that.
The judge is going to ask, how do you know there was actually going to be?
That's the qualification of it.
Advertising is not.
City can. I think that.
So somebody would have to go and count the number of people in the house at a time.
Sleeping.
Go and.
I said, they're gonna rent for 22 people in a residential area, doesn't that in and of itself?
That's what we're trying to tell you.
It says 22 in your ordinance. That moves.
Okay.
We're trying to explain, you still have to get before the judge. You won't get before the judge. Since they advertise for 22 people, only allowed to have 18. Judge, but listen, please, I understand. I'm on your side. I want you to know. Please, but I was populating for 25 years. Dealt with nuisance down there. But you would not believe, okay? We've been through this. When cases go before the judge, the first thing he says, all right, what do you guys got? What do we have? All right, How do you know there's actually 22 people that stayed in that house overnight? Well, Your Honor, we have this, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. How do you know there was actually 22 people that slept in that house? That's fine. Well, we have this many people going in, you think this many people came out in the morning? I mean, we've done surveillance, and we're going to talk about police surveillance, things like that. Guess what? Sorry, I can't help it. It's frustrating. And I think these guys want to make sure that they get it wrong. There's a lot of communities around here, having these ordinances and doing these things, and they're starting to get thrown out of court. They're starting to get themselves in the gym, and when you get thrown out of court, you get yourself in the gym, now we're getting sued. So we gotta make sure we do it right. I know you're frustrated, but these guys want to dot their i's, cross their t's, and talk to everybody involved, including our lawyers, to make sure it's done right, we got something going after them. And eventually, the judge is going to say, all right, well, you got it. Okay, when this happened, because guess what? I'm going to tell you, people that own these houses, big time lawyers, a lot of money. And they've been through it all. And we faced the best. When I was Macy, we faced the best lawyers, top lawyers from Cherry Hill, you name it. But what I'm telling you is, they're trying to cover their butt and make sure it gets right. So it doesn't make sense if we pass something the right way, and it's not going to help us. Just going to get more frustrated. I know you became you're upset. You gotta be sit on your side. But we gotta make sure we do it right. I'm so sorry. We gotta trust me. We're trying to do it right. That's all.
Hi, I'm Donna Sarah from Moonbank Condos. When I moved into my condo, I knew not rent for more than
So, Commissioner, yeah.
4220 and 42.
Thank you.
When we moved into our condo, we knew you cannot rent for less than 3 months. In fact, there's no renters. There's people that rent annually. So my question is, when somebody applies for a license for residential license, do they, like, if you give a guy 25 residents without thinking that they're gonna rent? I mean, if this guy owns 25 properties, it's one person, you have to know he was gonna rent them. So I'm wondering why there are no parameters, or why do you do that? Because that's a business, that's not resident. If one guy owns 25 properties and he doesn't even live here, that's a business. So where are they? They're not hotels, because for some reason, this city allowed all the hotels to become condos. And I hear what you're saying, there's no short time rentals. But here's the other thing, if you rent in the Atlantic City, you have to, if you rent into a hotel, you have to pay 3 taxes. Why don't you charge these people taxes and hire the person you're talking about to enforce? I know that they pay property taxes, but if you're talking about hiring a whole position, you can certainly charge those taxes, especially for the guy that's getting 25 rentals. And let them pay for that position. Somebody gets governance, right? But I mean, I don't know where we allow this all to go astray. Because if condos have these rules, why can't the city?
The condo associations and quote, right, you're like quasi governments. And when you buy into that association, you're also buying into those things, like those rules.
I get it. So
what
one of the things you should be trying to fix that is when people buy residential homes, what the rules are there. And then find a way to fund it when it's not a residential home. To find somebody that's going to come in and make sure they're abiding by the rules.
So if you were to see what we're doing with some of the ideas you brought up, we've actually discussed, and we've been researching in other communities, especially here in New Jersey, how they do the very thing you're doing. It's part of our discussion, but what we'd like to do instead of piecemeal things, let's put together a solid plan and incorporate.
I don't think that's just give a citation to the person who's violating it. Let them fight it later. Doesn't mean you have to report it, even fight it, but maybe by giving him a citation that he's violating it, he'll cease and desist. I mean, at least.
Some of the owners don't care about it, but you can write a ticket and all they do is raise the price of what they rent for, which is why we went into the animal house ordinance.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is, if
you know, somebody called him on the phone, first of all, I knew why somebody called him on the phone, and I didn't say that. Why didn't they just send somebody out there, and then you can see all these people? I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Just so you have probable cause to enter the home.
I don't never go home, there's cars all over the place.
But that doesn't
There's
prove it.
there's real bad stuff when you attach that to the letter, that the thing that was sent out about doing a
But
commercial.
they said that that was no longer happening.
They said that, but
It
it
just
wasn't.
Our claim is their claim, but different, that's what goes before a judge. If we don't know.
Go before a judge. If somebody would come out to why this event is going on, several police officers,
But we
And
can't.
we, no, you don't have to have a home, they were all over the place.
But
We saw advertise this, we know you're charging money, we're telling you they paid, they could have.
I don't know what we have the ability to do.
I hear what you're saying, I did HR for years. I used to tell everybody, if you write it right in the school, then you gotta follow the rules to the T. I get them. But it doesn't preclude you from at least doing a step, to let these people know they're not gonna keep doing it.
We did, we actually took two steps. We sent a letter of our sector, we also sent a letter from our attorney.
But you send it to the owner, not the person running the street, that what's going on.
What we're doing is that laid the foundation. If repeat events happen, we start to try to document, but you know, the way part of the young employees. Of one time, we'll
Documents up, I got.
which is, so understand, so it works very simple. So one of the things we need to also do is make sure that we do our proper documentation. I see this, so that as a meeting after years, one of the things I've seen where most management has failed is to do proper documentation. And although they were 100% right, 100%, they couldn't prove it. They couldn't make it sit. And that's what, but that's what we don't want to go. We want to make sure that we get it. So you have a lot of great ideas.
Well, and my other question is, when people build these mega mansions. It's for like a probationary period of residency, so that they don't have these
I don't
things.
feel like we do the same. But one of the things we are looking at is how we can also start to address long-term issues through the planning and zoning board. And that's one of the things I'm very interested in, especially in Florida. Florida and some of their residential, I don't say like board areas, how really create ways in order to kind of minimize problems. So that's what we're looking at, is realize that Florida laws are different than New Jersey, so we want to take these laws and see if they're applicable here in New Jersey. Right. The situations that exist, what do we need to do from multiple aspects to properly address those situations? And it takes work. We are all willing to work. And so nobody's,
No, I
they
don't.
don't count on anything against that.
My other thought, last one is, Brigantine is not like any of the ocean counties around. Ocean, 3 points, beaches or anything. It's very different, one way in, one way out. I mean, over the years that I've been coming here, I saw all kinds of terrible things happen because. I mean, we did get a bridge, which was great, but then we had casinos come in and we had this and we had that. So, and I hear what you're saying about you've only been there for 2.5 years. This is what the people that run it under said, so, well, I wasn't here when that happened. So I'm not going to go and look back in the documents to why something happened. So I think that everybody who's doing it now should be aware of what the history is. There's minutes for every meeting. Because I had the same conversation with our founder. Even though something happened 10 years ago, they're enforcing something that changed, but they don't know the history for it. So I'm just saying, for the people who have lived here, and you have lived here a lot. So you need to refresh your memory or go back and see what's
Those pages of that meeting, exactly what I said, it was to kind of my house rules.
right.
So I told you, so there's two things. One, I wasn't part of those meetings, but I was on this council when we had my house ordinance was passed, and it was mostly due to the concern. To realize that was what, 2014? And until a couple of weeks ago, actually, Andrea started bringing it back to our attention. I don't know that anyone from our council really understood the severity of the situation, because while this has been 11 years of hardship to the community, we're now saying, listen, here's the problem. How can we properly address it, not just here, but community-wide? And how can we start to look at, look, where has it failed before? Why did it fail? How do you do with that? And the rest, you know, it's left there. No, they can't change that in the past. But these can change. We're looking to go from here, that is the goal.
How long did it take for the animal house? That resolution from start to finish?
Honestly,
Donna to see DISIR. Thank you.
And Donna, I just want to say one other thing also. And certainly appreciate everyone coming out here tonight and hearing and having this great discussion. It's going to be very, very helpful. But Donna, before, I don't know if you're just frustrated when you made a statement about limiting the amount of properties or houses that a person can, buy. Well, you asked, how could that happen? Right. Right, but okay, did you ask how someone can buy 25 properties?
So I asked for, I don't know what the licensing rules are, but if somebody's buying 25 properties, that seems to be like a commercial business. I don't know if it's under commercial day or.
That's something that happened very recently. This is not something that's been going on forever. This just happened to be recent, and it just happens to pertain to the gentleman who owns 401. Okay? It just happened. So now we have to address it. How do we address it? And we address it by building the case. Just like you said that you were human resources. If you wanted to get rid of a bad employee, you can't just fire them. You have to have a record. You have to have some sort of timeline and say, look, this is what we did. This is what we attempted to work with them. But now we can no longer deal with it.
And then
So
what also happens is, Donna, is that, okay, say this person or this business buys 25 properties. Well, one may be 302 20th Street LLC. The next one might be 304 20th Street LLC. So most of the time, Donna, I just want to finish what I'm saying. Most of the time, when these builders or these buyers or investors come in, they register these property under a different LLC.
that's it's only hearsay. It's only hearsay.
Any idea when you're gonna schedule the first meeting? And I'm gonna, and to answer that question with a question, will follow up. I will for 2000 Ocean Avenue, glorious living room. Yeah, you guys fit in it. You can have your little mini cluster. I can fit on my section, so there are probably 15 people, so I'm under the 18 threshold. So if you want to have your first meeting, Bob, you can get most of it, part of it, you know, you can use 2000 Ocean Avenue. And the sooner the better. I think you should have it on the weekend, so you all can see what's going on.
So the first meeting will be internally, first meeting will be. We're gonna be meeting with community members, if you want to host first meeting, so we're gonna be to your house.
I can't help but sit here and come up with a solution. Write your complaints. Yes. Sign your name. How many do they need to have it go forward in front of the judge?
We need one to go in front of a judge, but multiple help.
Well, now, let's take that statement back. Hold on, wait, I want to clarify. One issue, when you talk about a nuisance property, you're trying to go somebody's like, one complaint is not enough. I would tell you that the city of Brigantine is the first municipality in the state of New Jersey to take animal house ordinance to a judge. No one knew how the judge was moving. We had numerous complaints over many months. We won. There was a good chance that the judge looked at it and said, you guys don't have the authority to do this, and kicked it back. If they kicked it back, they would hurt every municipality in the state of New Jersey. So understand, we were the first of any It is much more than just one if you wanted to have two. I'm sorry, Tom.
That's great. That's good news. Thank you. Change the subject. In light of the impending destruction in our ocean, the offshore wind projects, and in light of the improved weather with lots of people coming down on weekends to their second homes and renting and visiting Brigantine, our mission for Brigantine Beach has been and still is to educate people. I'm concerned that there's still a lot of second homeowners and visitors who know nothing about it. I still bump into people, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So we need to go to a new, higher, more aggressive level of communicating to the public. I want to get your input with 3 ideas that I have. One of them is our local newspaper. I know Emmett has had problems with the digital version. He's not doing that people used to be able to go online and read Brigantine Times. I was wondering if there's any way city council could give him some kind of a, I don't know, suggestion, request to let our information go in the paper as news instead of as us having to pay for advertisement space. Is that something that could be worked out?
I would tell you that we do not have the jurisdiction. So we can do that. If you wrote news articles, and prints news articles, when it comes to flyers, information, things like that, and charges, it is business. We don't have the authority to talk about.
Letters to the editor.
Yeah, letters to the editor.
That's yes, good. Keep that in mind. Second and third idea kind of goes together. I know we have an electronic portable sign that often gets placed on the town side of the bridge for big events that come up. Is there a way we could get that used for our 422, April 22nd? We have our fundraiser at the Cove, or I'm sorry, at the VFW. Is there?
I don't know that you're allowed to use city resources nowadays to raise money for like private groups like that. I would say this said no. So there's laws that we have to follow, and I don't know that we
Does anybody else do that?
So I don't know if they use our.
Not recently, no.
I mean, I would refer to our solicitor. If that door gets open,
Sorry?
if that door gets open, it's open to everybody. So although the governing body may support your issue, and I use the Ku Klux Klan as the best example. If they want to now advertise on this thing, they've got to get it away. So
Okay, I guess
it's a door that should not be open.
I'm coming from a question mark of what can the city do to help us to inform, same time with the almost unanimous support for Brigantine Beach. What can the city do further to help us get the word out?
So I think, we held a series of community meetings, and the media is very engaged. It's being covered, news, like print, radio, it's being covered in television. I know we're in the planning phase of another community meeting that will be held in the next couple of months. But, we're doing everything that we can, but when it comes to actually allocating city resources for those groups, like that, one, it opens up a lot of doors, and two, it's not something we're able to do. So we're doing everything in our power that we're able to do to help get the word out. I will tell you, your social media presence is very, very strong. And honestly, when it comes to advertising right now, social media is probably the best. Yeah, I mean, your traffic's way up, so your message is definitely getting out.
Speaking of traffic, would it be possible for the city to buy / rent a billboard on the AC Expressway?
We cannot buy a billboard to promote the ideas of the Brigantine, to see reasons
It's not our own state.
I don't know if the city would be able to do that, but that's something we can look into. And I also don't know how impactful the billboard would be.
I have a picture here from a Grace Realty in Ocean City. It's a 3-sided sign.
Yes,
It says, you saw,
yeah,
stay the wells and know the windmills.
so that's the private business.
I understand.
It's both,
I understand.
is, yeah.
Is there any way that the city could make a statement saying our city is not for that?
So
We
I
don't
think
want that.
we've done that a number of times in public forums. I'll be honest, I don't know how much the billboard's gonna inform people about the issue. Like, I see where you're getting at, and I know that you're trying to get the message out, but I think that what we're doing is actually a better way of getting the message out than just putting up a billboard. I'm pretty sure most people know where we stand on the issue. And, I think that the Denver team is doing a fantastic job. I mean, I play guys on NBC News, it's like ABC News. Doing a fantastic job, and I think that's really impactful relationship to.
I got it.
Would anybody stop them from putting up their own signs, similar to like political signs that
If it's on, so if it's on city property, you can't, and I believe that we don't. People do it, we're not supposed to allow signs out there, which is why I always have conversations about taking them down. So that's the whole issue when it comes to city property, we're not, you guys have a number of times that are on private property, and I think that is the best way to go. Denver team signs can happen, amazing. Get those up on private property, run down to locations, same as people do with political signs, I think we can get that message out there.
Okay, we'll just, keep on persisting. Any ideas, anything anybody comes up with to promote more, please do.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
No other public comment, close the public, sorry, you got it.
I want to talk about, where the movements today. I want to talk about the, situation. I was ground zero in 2017, 2018, Henry Road, 314. I was ground zero in August 2017, when the last iteration of the House ordinance was updated. I had a meetings for everybody who was involved, and as a result, every time a complaint was filed with the city or, for a nuisance anywhere within 3 or 4 blocks of me, I got a copy. A couple of the things I have issues with. Number one, there seems to be no institutional memories of anything that went on there. We went through, when the ordinance was finally promulgated. I was at the meeting, I spoke on behalf of residents. There was a gentleman who spoke on behalf of small rental properties. We both requested that city council have a meeting, bringing in diverse groups before the law was passed and the law was through on that matter. I attempted to meet thereafter with the landlord, eventually in Simpson, and also met in Bennett to try and flesh out everything that had been implicitly advised at the time. None of that ever happened. I was hated by many realtors, contrary to belief, because everybody thought it would drive down home sales and drive down prices. My contention all along is that it changed the quality of life and it would drive up prices. If a house is worth far more for someone to take and rent it, and that's what's happening, then they will bid higher. We see regular people being pushed off the island. One of the reasons why the number of students is low. As you already said, young families can't afford the island. There were some things that we're talking about that could help us. Number one, there was this big gradation at 18 people sleeping. There were all sorts of ways where somebody even advertised close to 18, code could require manifests. to be posted of who was there. So in the event of a disruptive situation, the police could come in and immediately, supposedly, I don't know the law, immediately make everybody who wasn't on that manifest leave the way they could in a hotel. Jim told me point blank, I don't have the resources. It's all wonderful ideas, wonderful things that we could do. Play a hardball with individuals. Another one was making sure that properties that had more than one slight citation no longer get the benefit of the doubt of whoever was in that property, because the homeowner was not advising them in advance. We had a situation where property behind me didn't even have a rental property agreement, they had a party. I think the police were called 4 or 5 times, one citation was issued. First call and an offer noise, first one at 11 o'clock, the last one at 3:30 in the morning. Finally, one citation was issued. I used to go up to, I'll come here and see how many citations got put through. I wasn't the one calling them in, but I got to getting meetings. And it turned out that there were any number of problems. Number one, people didn't know that they were supposed to come up on Monday, or they were afraid to come up on Monday, or they came up on Monday and the paperwork hadn't been processed, and so they were told they had to come back another time to finally sign the citation. So there were things that were supposed to get done to streamline internals between police and fire and the rental office. There was supposed to be a brochure put together that could go out to homeowners who weren't rental, to give them a specific list of everything they should do and everything that was allowable for them to call a complaint on. I tried to work with that on that with Jim, and it never got anywhere. There was something about if somebody even advertised over 18, even possibly having a citizen refer it to the state, because apparently if you have 18 or more, it's a motel or a hotel, there's a special state tax involved beyond the normal transaction tax. You know, I would love to deep dive into this so long as there are deliverables, such as letting every citizen know in a little brochure. This is where you can make a call, this is how you do it, this is how you follow up. And then it's formalized and every resident online knows what they have to do. So I mean, I do more of these when you get your groups. Yeah, I put them all away because 5 years ago, it seemed that the party health ordinance was designed to scare people who weren't sophisticated. And now we have a sophisticated group of owners who know that a lot of it is smoke. So anyway, I applaud that we're going to try to do something about this.
Henry, we had a couple of really good ideas. I think the road piece we've been, some of the people I talked to other areas of the city use that education is a big part of it, because a lot of times homeowners don't know how to come to address it. And by having something flyers that brochure that kind of lets people know where to direct them, they kind of streamline the process. But it's not really permission to go back and I need to figure out that there's incidents that happen over the weekend. Maybe the officers or code enforcement needs Monday to get that together, maybe for Tuesday.
Yeah, I used to be a joke, and I remember when my daughter was still alive, I walked my dog out here, and most people in Honolulu, and we'd go back and see. We knew that there was complaints filed on the weekend, walking on a Monday, walking on a Tuesday, did anything ever made it to the rent block, and then invariably nothing ever made it. And I wasn't necessarily privy to why we didn't make it there, just to get to the room that could actually put it against the house.
That's what I think we need to find out. Like you said, there was these challenges better. What do we do really better to keep the process?
Yeah, because again, I think the property prices will continue to go up. I don't rent my house out for thousands of dollars a week, but there are people on the street who rent out similar bigger houses. Yeah, you're making $15,000 a week, and probably more if you're on the beach during the high season. That's the reason to invest. You don't need to have somebody living there all the time. And that's what I see from a lot of these houses.
There's no other comment, close portions. Are there any final council comments? I see none. We have a Motion to adjourn. I think motion to so Paul, Mike, motion and second, all in favor? It goes, thank you everybody for coming out today.
Here, on the side. It's a violation.